Hey everyone, before we get to the thrilling conclusion of World War One, I am here to tell you that we are doing 4 live shows at the end of March and into April. I'm talking Sunday, March 28, April 4, April 11 and April 18 at the European Beer Cafe. And I got to tell you, they're not the only live podcasts that some of us will be doing.
Ooh.
That's right, Matt and I have just announced that we will be doing our first ever and possibly only ever live podcasts of our spin-off shows, Primates and Book Cheat. And they are both happening on Sunday, April 4. Matt, you've got some fantastic guests lined up for your 2 p.m. show.
Yes, we got the Dream Team is what the listeners came to call it, or did I start calling them that? One of the two. But the Dream Team of Evan Munro-Smith, classic second banana, Nick Mason from The Weekly Planet, and Cass Pagey Page from Sans Pants Radio.
Oh, that's a good lineup.
Such a good lineup. So it's going to be so much fun. Meso's already suggested we get gorilla suits. I'm not sure that's going to happen. He did say that would probably blow the budget.
Who cares?
But who cares? Maybe. If
Budget schmudget, that's what I say.
anyone's got an in at a gorilla costume shop, hit me up.
And that's at 2 o'clock. Then at 4:15, I'll be doing a live book cheat. Guests to be confirmed, but we will be wearing costumes made of ham, which is a little reference to the To Kill a Mockingbird episode. Anyway, and I'll be going through a book with some fantastic guests, people that you know and love well. And so you can get tickets to those shows as well as our podcast at 8:30 that same night. And in between, Matt's doing his stand-up show, so you literally can see 4 shows of ours basically back-to-back with a couple of meal breaks in the middle.
Oh, my God. That's either a dream or a nightmare. I can't decide.
Come with us on this dream nightmare.
Get your ham costumes ready and we'll see you there. Hello and welcome to another episode of Do Go On. My name is Dave Warnicky, and as always, I'm here with Jess Perkins and Matt Stewart.
I'm Jess Perkins.
Hello, I'm Matt Stewart.
We'll hear more from those couple of larrikins in just a second. But beforehand, if this is your first time ever listening to this show, I suggest you listen to last week's episode because this is a part 2. But anyway, we take it in turns to report on a topic often suggested by a listener. And it's Matt's turn to report on the topic this week.
Matt.
Oh, no.
Yes,
we
shut
always
up.
start with a question, and the answer is World War One.
No, I wanted to get the point.
Yeah, I knew you did. So, Matt, what is your question?
But he didn't ask a question.
Damn it. And I'm locked out. I'm locked
The
out.
question is, what is this week's episode part 2 of?
World War One.
Correct.
Fuck you, Dave.
Honestly, if you're keeping score out there, which I know one of you is, half a point each.
No.
It'd be interesting to see because they're the judge. We fully leave that up to them. So whatever they say goes.
Yeah, exactly. We never fact check their scoring.
Yeah, no.
So this is the part 2.
That's right. We finished last week with the US entering the war. So we got through a lot of stuff last week. And really, from what I've read, the US entering was one of the massive turning points of the whole war.
Yeah.
And I asked people for feedback over the last few days since the first episode came out.
And I think you're foolish for doing so.
I did feel that way, but nearly everyone was really positive, which was nice. I got a couple of little extra tips, and so I'm going to do a quick backtrack because someone mentioned this. I didn't write their name down. Apologies for that, but I thought it was pretty interesting. But anyway, so to start this episode, I'm going to go right back to the start. In a way, I guess it helps recap how it all kicked off as well.
Please tell me you're just going to do the whole thing.
We're going
now.
again, filling in all the gaps I missed. No, but there was just one. I think it was a fun thing. I definitely would have put it in if I knew about it. So it sort of shows how the powerful people right at the centre of all of this were trying to stop it from happening right up until it all kicked off. So hours after Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and his cousin Kaiser Wilhelm II started communicating with each other via telegram. As a side note, the titles Tsar and Kaiser are both directly derived from the Roman Emperor title of Caesar. Do you know that?
Ah.
German listener Lucas Bender messaged saying the German word Kaiser is a direct descendant from the Latin Caesar. And not only that, The Latin word was probably pronounced just like Kaiser, with a hard C instead of a soft one. So he said, so enjoy your Kaiser salads.
So, Kaiser or Kaiser?
yeah.
Caesar
I'll have a
salad.
Kaiser salad, please.
And then people will say, it's Caesar. And you'll say, well, actually.
Yeah, actually.
You'll be that person.
I actually had a listener message me about this.
Like anytime people order bruschetta and you get to go, well, actually, it's bruschetta. Okay.
And I love doing that.
They're always fact-checking me at restaurants. They're like, it's not gnocchi. It is not gnocchi.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think you'll find
you're
that's
fine.
how I've always said
Yeah, that's right, Mum.
Gnocchi.
Just like Mum used to make.
He also pulled me up, and he did this in a very friendly way. That's why I even said, thanks for being gentle. And he said, look, anyone who's getting upset about information here, we're all having good fun. And I said, I appreciate your attitude very much,
That's
Mr.
a great
Bender.
attitude to have.
But
Hey, did you just make up a conversation?
no, this is hey, it's all up there on the public record. Check out twitter.com. But he also mentioned that I did say king a few times for brevity when talking about the Russian Tsar and the German Kaiser. And he said, while it's not necessarily wrong, it does sound a little weird to a German because Germany had many kings back then. There was a king of Bavaria, king of Saxony, a king of all of those different territories. And the Kaiser was merely the boss king.
Right.
So sort of the king of kings or the ace of aces.
Yeah,
in a
right.
way.
Okay, should we call him the Ace of Aces
So it's
for
a bit
now?
confused. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's a bit confusing.
Yeah, that's
Cool,
right.
okay, that's really
yeah, so I
interesting.
thought that was interesting because there was a lot of kingdoms that had relatively recently come together.
Is there also a Tsar of Tsars?
Yes, Tsar of Tsars.
I love Boss King, though.
Boss King's pretty
I mean,
good.
it's very cute that you're a king, but I'm kind of like the king of kings.
Sorry.
So you're going to need to sit down, okay?
Imagine being the king, but then like being outranked.
Yeah.
But I'm the king.
But I'm the king. That's very cute. And we're very proud of you being a very good king. Now sit down.
Sit down and someone's going to chop your head off.
So anyway, let's get back to the telegrams between Nicholas and Wilhelm. So they're cousins. They're both the rulers of these two major players, one on each side of the war. But they're close. They grew up together. They would go away on sailing vacations and wear each other's armies' uniforms and stuff for fun, I guess, or I don't know. But anyway, so they signed off each other's telegrams with their sort of affectionate nicknames for each other, which you'll hear because I'm going to read some of these out.
Cuzzy Wuzzy.
So the following breakdown of the correspondence is taken from a Washington Post article written by Graham Allison from Harvard's Kennedy School. The exchange began in the very early morning of July 29th, just hours after Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia in retaliation for the Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo and the assassination. Time was short to find a diplomatic solution that would prevent a regional war from becoming a world war. So this was a telegram from Tsar Nicholas. He wrote, and they wrote to each other in English as well because that was a common language, and both of their grandmothers was Queen Victoria. That's
Of course,
why they're cousins, yeah. In this serious moment, I appeal to you to help me. An ignoble war has been declared to a weak country, that's Serbia. The indignation in Russia shared fully by me is enormous. I foresee that very soon I shall be overwhelmed by the pressure forced upon me to be forced to take extreme measures which will lead to war. To try and avoid such a calamity as a European war, I beg you in the name of our old friendship to do what you can to stop your allies from going too far. Nicky. That's what he calls himself.
Nicky.
Nicky.
Cute.
It's sort of like you see he's sort of putting on a bit of pressure on the friendship.
Yeah.
But also like, come on, you're not silly enough to be the one that forces. Well, I know it's not you, but your
Yeah.
friends. Don't make your friends
Yeah.
do this silly war. But even before this telegram arrived in Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm sent his own message. So they sort of crisscrossed.
Yeah, right.
And this happened a lot in this conversation. They'd be replying to the last telegram and vice versa. Part of his telegram in the other direction wrote, the persons morally responsible for this dastardly murder should receive their deserved punishment. In this case, politics plays no part at all. On the other hand, I fully understand how difficult it is for you and your government to face the drift of your public opinion. Pretty sassy, right? Yeah, you've got a bit bit of a
I know
drift
it's
there.
hard, Oof,
Yeah.
that.
It's hard being unpopular like
Yeah.
you are.
But then again, I can't relate. I have to be very clear. I'm not sympathetic, but empathetic.
I'm an empath.
I'm an empath. That must be tough. I don't know what it feels like, but it must be hard.
It goes on, therefore, with regard to the hearty and tender friendship which binds both of us from long ago with firm ties, I'm exerting my utmost influence to induce the Austrians to deal straightly to arrive at a satisfactory understanding with you. I confidently hope that you will help me in my efforts to smooth over difficulties that may arise. Your very sincere and devoted friend and cousin, Willy.
I'm just hoping it would be Willy. Yes.
Willy and Nicky.
So these are known as the Willy Nicky telegrams.
Very cute.
And there was a bunch. I don't know how many of them. Just going through them now. They're probably not that interesting. And there'll be a link to read them all if you want to, dear listeners. But the point is they're going backwards and forwards, and it gets a little tenser as it goes along.
Right.
And eventually it's like a war breaks out, basically.
But it seems like at the start they're very much on the same page.
Yeah, that's right. Like throughout, they're both trying to avoid the war.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be the one. They're sort of not. Neither of them are going to be the classic bigger man of going, hey, look, I'm pulling right back.
Yeah.
Because they're in this position where they can't. So there was trouble because the Tsar, I don't know how to say that, but anyway, the Russians were going to take a while to get their army going. And if they didn't get ready, knowing that a war might be coming, then they're left way behind, and vice versa. But as soon as their army's mobilised, the Germans are like, well, that's sort of like an act of aggression. We see you setting up, so we've got to be prepared. Yeah. So it was like a bit of just like a vicious cycle. Sort of thing.
Right. Jeez.
But yeah, it was kind of sad because it all ended very badly. It ended very badly for both of these guys, as we'll hear.
Oh, bit of sizzle.
Bit of sizzle there.
Are you telling me that over 100 years later, both of these people are no longer here?
Hang on.
Hey, look, I'm not going that far.
Dave.
What about Queen Victoria? Don't tell me. No. Not Queen Vicky.
Grandma Vicky.
Grandma Vicky, it's me, little Nicky.
I'll read one more paragraph from this article by Graham Allison, which sort of just showed me how much they knew that no one involved really wanted it to happen. I mean, maybe some of the people involved in the respective armies did, but the last bit of correspondence, Germany's ambassador to St. Petersburg went in and handed the Russian foreign minister.
His name is St. Petersburg.
The ambassador to St. Petersburg.
Right.
Sorry.
So there's another guy called St. Petersburg. He's the ambassador for him.
That's right.
Sorry. So it's going to be a long report.
The ambassador went in, German's ambassador. He's in there in Russia. He handed the Russian foreign minister a declaration of war and then burst into tears.
Oh.
Isn't that hectic?
Wow.
Is he worried they would shoot the messenger?
I don't know. I guess he was obviously, I assume, as the ambassador, he's probably living there. He probably quite likes being in Germany and being like, I don't want this to happen. Or maybe he just knew how fucked up it was all about to get.
Yeah.
The other thing someone or a few people pointed out was, I think we talked about how Germany went through Belgium, which was neutral, which brought Britain into the war. Why didn't they just go around Belgium? But apparently very well fortified the German and French border and a lot more mountainous as well, whereas Belgium's quite flat. So that was kind of the reason.
So they were lazy.
It was a time-saving thing, but in the end probably should
have just put on the hiking boots.
Yeah.
To be fair, if there's a bit of a hill, I'm like,
fuck it, I'll go through Belgium.
I got to walk up a hill a bit.
But you also remember the Schlieffen Plan. They needed to knock over France quickly.
Yeah.
So they couldn't afford this extra time. So they thought it was sort of the pragmatic decision to go, all right, we're going through a neutral territory.
And they were like rolling the dice that Britain would look the other way.
I think so. They were really hoping they wouldn't.
Can't be bothered getting into a war.
Something else that I sort of hinted at but didn't quite go into in the first part, which I thought I'd just run through a little bit. So just because we talk about it as a world war, but really been focusing a lot on the direct European ones. But I thought let's talk a bit about the British dominions. Mm-hmm. So obviously there were two sides in the war, just to recap a bit. The Central Powers, which is the Austria-Hungary / Germany and their ally side. I'm assuming they're called the Central Powers because of their position in Europe. They are the centre compared to Russia and
They're sort of
France and everyone around
on either side.
Yeah. And then you've got on the other side the Triple Entente of France, Russia, and Britain, and then their allies. And that side is also commonly referred to as the Allies. I also want to go back and talk about the consequences of one of the Triple Entente, Great Britain entering the war, because it instantly brought in their dominions. They declared war on Germany on the 4th of August 1914. That automatically committed the rest of the empire to war. And, this has been on the back of a few centuries of Britain going around and just stealing land and countries and whatever, colonising the world. So this meant the West Indies, New Zealand, Australia, British India, Canada, Newfoundland, parts of Africa, including the Union of South Africa, were all brought into the war basically without any say at all.
Yeah,
well, the Godfather calling upon you for a favour.
Yeah.
Even though but the Godfather's already fucked up your country previously.
Yeah, wild.
Hey, remember what I did for you? Huh?
Huh?
Well, now you got to repay the favour. Oh, you don't want to.
But that's the funny thing. So over 3 million soldiers and labourers from across the Empire and Commonwealth served alongside the British Army in the First World War, according to the National Army Museum. And you assume that there would be they'd be going, I don't want to be drawn into this. But according to the New Zealand government history website, quote, Britain could not have anticipated the enthusiasm with which its empire would embrace the war effort from the outset, and its stoic commitment as the war dragged on. Nor could the British government have foreseen just how crucial a role some components of the empire, notably India and the Dominions, would play in the British Army's battles on the Western Front and elsewhere. So this is from the British National Army Museum website. It breaks down some of the work that different dominions and countries put in. So here's India. Soldiers from the Indian subcontinent, including India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, fought in all the major wartime theatres. You don't hear about the Indian soldiers at all, but they put in so many soldiers. It's funny. I guess because they're sort of all under the umbrella of the British Empire. You never really hear, apart from in Australia, talk of Australian soldiers either.
That's what I was just thinking about. I mean, we study Australia's involvement a lot heavy, like in a much more heavy way. So that's what I was just thinking. I was like, well, yeah, I haven't thought about that, but we just haven't learnt about it because we're just, as soon as you said Australia, I'm like, oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's us. We're in Australia right now. It's exciting.
But India, they had 2 infantry, 2 cavalry divisions arriving in the Western Front by the end of 1914, and eventually 140,000 men saw service there. In 1915, Indian troops arrived in the Middle East, where they fought against the Ottoman Turks in Palestine and Mesopotamia, now Iraq. That same year, soldiers from the Indian Army fought alongside British, Australian and New Zealand troops on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Didn't know there were Indian troops involved in Gallipoli. I mean, in my head, Gallipoli is basically Australia and New Zealand, and then a couple of English guys sipping on tea and making bad decisions.
Yeah,
pointing at stuff.
I think that's how I was taught it in school.
Pretty much. I think that's what all the picture books had, yeah.
They're having a bite of a biscuit and a sip of tea going, go kill yourselves.
Yes.
Go over there.
Jolly good.
Run at those bullets over there, please. Don't know if that's quite accurate.
I think it's pretty good, though. It's close if it's not completely accurate.
Yeah.
The Indians also formed a large portion of the Allied forces occupying former enemy territory in East Africa, the Balkans, Asia Minor, and the Caucasus. That's almost definitely not how you say that. In total, 1.27 million Indians voluntarily served as combatants and labourers.
Wow.
Huge.
Massive.
Yeah. The West Indies, there were around 15,000 West Indians enlisted, including 10,000 from Jamaica. Others came from Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, the Bahamas, British Honduras, Belize, Grenada, British Guyana, the Leeward Islands, St. Lucia and St. Vincent. Although a few served in regular British Army units, most men in the Caribbean served in the West Indian Regiment and the British West Indies Regiment, serving in France, Italy, Africa and the Middle East. Again, I mean, I should also say that I don't know much about the World War in general. nearly everything that I've read I've been like, whoa, really? Africa, this is still from that same British National Army Museum website I was talking about. African troops played a key role in containing the Germans in East Africa and defeating them in West Africa. Europeans and Indians struggled in the harsh African climate, but the local inhabitants had the skills to survive and prosper, which is hardly surprising. By November 1918, the British Army in East Africa was mainly composed of African soldiers. The units involved were the West African Frontier Force, drawn from Nigeria, the Gold Coast, or now Ghana, and Sierra Leone. Not Gold Coast, in Queensland.
I was
Setting
like,
up,
Service Paradise.
Yeah, Batman went up from Movie World.
you know.
They also had recruits from Kenya, Uganda, and Malawi. At least 180,000 Africans also served in the Carrier Corps in East Africa and provided logistic support to troops at the front. So just just amazing numbers. This I found interesting and a bit, sort of different time stuff, but a lot of this is a bit fucked. But in South Africa, over 60,000 labourers came from South Africa. Black South Africans were restricted to a logistical role because the South African government feared arming them. Around 25,000 black South Africans were also recruited to the South African Native Labour contingent that served on the Western Front in 1916 and 1917. So they're amazing. So they're either fearing like revolt or which says something. If your army's not going to fight for you,
you've got some other issues to maybe sort out first.
In 1915, an expeditionary force of 67,000 white South African troops invaded German Southwest Africa, Namibia. Many of these soldiers later fought in East Africa as well. White South African units were also sent to the Western Front on the 14th of July 1916. The 1st South African Brigade entered Delville Wood on the Somme. After 6 days of vicious fighting in hellish conditions, only around 750 officers and men remained unharmed. That was out of about just over 3,000, but
that's huge.
It's a big
numbers,
proportion of them went down. So I don't know if this is how interesting this is, but I just thought it's worth giving little snapshots of some of the other.
So you're right. It is a world war.
Yeah. Totally. Canada. Do you want me to go through a few more? I'll just keep these briefer. Canada, following the outbreak of war, Canada raised the Canadian Expeditionary Force for service on the Western Front. From 1915, it fought in the most of the major battles, winning renown at the Second Battle of Ypres in 1915, on the Somme in 1916, at Vimy Ridge in 1917, and at Passchendaele in 1917. Canadian troops also played a leading role in the victorious 100 Days Offensives 1918, spearheading many of the Allies' key attacks. Wow. They lost over 60,000 men killed during the war, nearly 10% of the 620,000 Canadians who enlisted.
Wow.
Newfoundland, I didn't know, I'd never heard of Newfoundland. Oh, I knew it, but I didn't know where it was. But apparently this is now part of Canada.
Yeah.
But only since 1949. At this time, it was its own separate space under the British Empire. They fought at Gallipoli as well, but were almost wiped out in battles at Beaumont Hamel and the Somme. And they also fought at Arras and Passchendaele in 1917 and were there at the German Spring Offensive in 1918. Australia, Jess. You heard of these guys? How many Australians do you reckon would have been involved?
I was trying to think of that before. When you're giving numbers from other places, I feel like there was a lot of us, wasn't there? I don't know.
As a stab? I mean, I would have had no idea. You don't have to. It was over 410,000.
Okay, I was going to say 1 million. So 410,000 seems a bit pish.
But there was a lot less people living here then.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
as a percentage, it's huge.
Yeah, as a percentage, a really big portion.
And also, you got to be like, well, kids can't go. Well, in most cases.
Yeah.
And, really old people can't go. So you're like, oh, that's really a high percentage of anyone that could go.
Yeah, that's right.
And
they're not sending women at that time. Yeah. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, bonkers.
You would have been there for sure, Dave.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Oh my God, imagine Dave. They wouldn't have a uniform small enough. They'd be like, we have this one for a mouse. Don't ask
You wanna
why.
be the mascot.
Oh, okay.
So 410,000 to around 200,000 casualties out of that.
Whoa.
That's terrible.
In April 1915, Australians landed at Gallipoli in Turkey with troops from New Zealand, Britain and France. And we also heard India before.
Yeah.
The following year, Australian forces fought in campaigns on the Western Front and in the Middle East, where they defended the Suez Canal and helped take Sinai. Later, they advanced into Palestine and helped capture Gaza and Jerusalem. In 1918, the Australians played a leading role in the decisive Allied advance on the Western Front as well. I'm going to talk a little bit in a sec about a tiny bit more about the Gallipoli campaign, because that's the one that's taught in our schools here.
Yeah,
But I'm only going to touch on it briefly because I kind of feel like I reckon we'll do a full report on it one day.
Next week?
I think people want and deserve a break from war.
Yeah.
People have had to listen to 5 weeks.
I'm going to find some sort of kooky, lighthearted
Yeah,
story,
that's
I think.
For 5 weeks. Imagine living through 4 years of it.
Yeah. But that's crazy. So we lost almost half the men that went.
But when you say casualties,
think
that's
casual
not
means
always
injuries, yeah.
Right,
it's
okay.
dead and injured. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
and usually quite injured,
Just
right?
yeah, it's still fucked, isn't it?
So
Yeah.
you have a 50%
Was-
chance of it like altering your body in some way.
Was the baby boom after the First World War or the Second World War?
That would be after the Second World War.
right? Yeah.
And then New Zealand was the last one I'll touch on here. Following the outbreak of war, New Zealand forces helped Australia capture Germany's colonies in the Pacific. Almost 100,000 New Zealanders also served overseas in the New Zealand Expeditionary Force, including 2,700 Māori and Pacific Islanders. Around 18,000 New Zealanders gave their lives. This included 2,700 men killed at Gallipoli and over 12,000 soldiers killed on the Western Front.
Wow.
So that's like a 1 in 5 people aren't coming home at all.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
As was the case with the Australian and Canadian comrades, the experience of fighting together away from home helped the New Zealand soldiers forge a distinct national identity. They talk about that a bit with Australia. Apparently, Gallipoli has been a big part of, that, of, I guess, at least the military identity. I don't know, yeah, but maybe even
Our
just
mateship.
mateship. I
mateship.
think, that's true. I think a lot of that sort of stuff is drawn from that, and it's also... Maybe it was sort of like starting to see ourselves as a separate entity from Britain.
Yeah.
Like white Australia from just until then I think it's still at that point fought under the flag and
Yep.
the British flag and God Save the Queen was the national anthem. I think even into my dad's life, I think that's the case. I should have looked that up so I have people not yelling at their iPods. But anyway, let's talk briefly about the Gallipoli campaign. In Australia and New Zealand military history, like I'm saying, the most well-known campaign of the war was at Gallipoli. Mm-hmm. With the war remaining settled into a stalemate in Europe on the Western and Eastern fronts, the Allies attempted to score a victory against the Ottoman Empire. Not going into too much detail, like I say, but basically the Allies forged a large-scale land invasion the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey on the 25th of April 1915. This is still a national holiday in Australia and I think in New Zealand as well, Anzac Day. Anzac being Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. This followed a failed Navy attack by British and French ships on the Dardanelles Straits in the months prior. So this strip was really important. It could link... basically, it's a little strip that separates Europe from Asia almost, or Western Asia from Southern Europe. But it's also like quite an important strait for getting ships through and stuff.
Right.
And the Ottoman Empire controlled it, basically, I think. So they were trying to get that, and that would have really helped the be able to get through for the Russians to the other side. well explained.
I'm so sorry. I can't. I'm not. You're looking at us almost for help, and I can't help.
No, I know. I shouldn't.
It's like a little back door that they could go up and then right?
Little chuff.
Little chuff. You go up the back and then you could supply stuff and then be like, oh, hello, Germany, we're down here as well.
It would have, it would have helped immensely. Yeah. So apparently it was on the list of possible. Britain was looking at trying to take it from before the war, but it was seen as too difficult. And then into the war, they're like, oh, maybe we'll have a crack at it. And
we got a lot of people here that are willing to risk their lives.
Yeah.
Turned out, and because of mistakes and whatever, the invasion was a dismal failure. And after months of fighting without any gains, or very little gains anyway, in December, the Allies began a full retreat, having suffered 250,000 casualties, including 46,000 dead. Oof. And on the Turkish side, the campaign also cost an estimated 250,000 casualties with 65,000 killed. So a lot of people died. I mean, that's the whole war, right? But a lot of people died without any gains. Apparently, the Gallipoli campaign had no influence on the war.
Yeah,
it was as if it. Yeah.
Not pointless, but yeah, like you say, no influence on the war and all those lives lost for no gain.
The thing that we were taught to be sort of proud of at school, at primary school, I remember, was the escape. Nearly, I think no one died or nearly no lives were lost on the retreat. Like they did it under the cover of darkness. There was a bit of a subterfuge or whatever, so they could get it out without anyone dying, and that was the most successful thing about it, the retreat.
Wow.
Said something. Let's talk a bit about Italy. So Italy has not joined the war at this point, and they actually started on one side before the war and ended up joining the war on the other side. So they were kind of interesting in that way. According to theworldwar.org, when World War I began in July 1914, Italy was a partner in the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary, but decided to remain neutral. However, a strong sentiment existed within the general population and political factions to go to war against Austria-Hungary because they were Italy's historical enemy. Annexing territory along the two countries' frontiers, stretching from the Trentino region in the Alps eastward to Trieste at the northern end of the Adriatic Sea, was a primary goal and would liberate Italian-speaking populations from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, while uniting them with their own cultural homeland. During the immediate pre-war years, Italy started aligning itself closer to the Entente powers, France and Britain, for military and economic support. So they're seeing the war as a chance to take back land and sort of free who they see as Italian people who are now on the other side of the Austro-Hungarian border. On April the 26th, 1915, Italy negotiated the Secret Pact of London, by which Great Britain and France promised to support Italy annexing the frontier lands in return for entering the war on the Entente side. On May the 3rd, Italy resigned from the Triple Alliance. So they signed to the other side, and a week later, so there was a week there they were sort of signed up to both sides.
They always say line up another job before you quit.
Yeah. Very smart by Italy.
Yeah.
Or line up another marriage if yours is falling apart.
Exactly right.
I had 2 marriages at once.
I've got
you always have an overlap.
Yeah, oh man, you got to
have an overlap.
Every marriage needs an overlap.
You're crazy.
You got to line up another marriage.
What are you going marriageless?
Don't be ridiculous, Matt.
You leave yourself open to attack.
Matt, hang on, Dave. Let's not attack him straight off the bat. Let's come from a place of love and care. Matt, are you trying to tell us that you've
spent any of your adult life unmarried?
Yeah.
Have you been living in sin?
No.
That'd be so embarrassing.
I mean, I have overlap. I've overlapped in all my weddings.
Oh, thank God. And it's
sometimes for ease, I'll just marry multiple people on the same day.
Exactly, yes.
Fantastic.
Okay, yeah, great. All right, we're all on the same page then. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, early days of your marriage, you want to have, I was going to say a few fingers and pies, just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in case. And that's all Italy was doing.
And it saves time and money on weddings. Just have one big one,
exactly.
marry 3 people, see how it goes.
You also, you don't just drop the other wedding the next day, or wife or whatever, partner. Because you want to give it a week like Italy did to just see if it feels right.
Exactly.
Yeah, a little bit of annulment time, you know?
Yeah.
So on May the 3rd, Italy resigned from the Triple Alliance and later declared war against Austria-Hungary at midnight on May 23rd.
It's crazy.
So they broke up with them and waited nearly 3 weeks. Otherwise, it's a bit on the nose.
Like,
isn't it?
that'll be
Yeah.
like in the Daily Mail, you know?
Yeah, like,
Bit of a dog act.
Yeah.
yeah, come on. You've just declared war on your recent ex-wife?
Yeah, jeez.
Come on, mate.
Jeez. Give her a bit of space.
Yeah.
Let her remarry.
Yeah.
Let her declare war on you.
Exactly
that's
right.
right.
Yeah. You guys are such feminists.
Thank you. I mean, do I have to say that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's tattooed
I am
across your
the
forehead.
feminist
Yeah.
of this podcast. And you two should get behind me.
gonna get you-
Lean in.
I'm going to get him a t-shirt that says The Feminist.
The feminist of the podcast.
Yeah.
Of the
look forward-
podcast will be in very
Yeah,
small print.
and that's a real conversation starter at a party.
Look forward to explaining that.
Oh, so you're a feminist of a podcast. All right, I wish I hadn't brought this up.
And sorry,
The
how
regret
there,
is instant.
Yeah, oh, God.
and there is a woman on the podcast. Okay, yeah, all right.
All right.
You seem fun.
Well, that's why. I mean, in a lot of ways, I do it to help her.
Like, you haven't met her. Bloody hell.
Oh, my
She
God.
hates women.
You know what they're like. You know what they're like.
What happened to the sisterhood? So Italy's declared war on Austria-Hungary, midnight, May 23rd. History.com continues. British-led forces also combated the Ottoman Turks in Egypt and Mesopotamia, while in northern Italy, Austrian and Italian troops faced off in a series of 12 battles along the Eizonzo River, located on the border between the two nations. So that was like... That's something I'd not heard of, but yeah, Austria-Hungary and Italy were really fighting over territory along this strip. 12 battles. The first battle of the Eizonzo took place in the late spring of 1915, soon after Italy's entrance into the war on the Allied side. In the 12th battle of the Eizonzo, also known as the Battle of Caporetto in October 1917, German reinforcements helped Austria-Hungary win a decisive victory. After Caporetto, Italy's allies jumped in to offer increased assistance, British and French and then Americans, which it seems like there's a bunch of times where it's like they go, and American troops came in, and that really helped. Thousands of American troops came in, fresh troops.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that helped in their case. But 12 different battles, and it wasn't like one keeps winning. It was like switching. There were three or four of the battles were kind of too close to call.
Wow.
It was a real hot contested series.
Wow.
I'm going to talk a bit about another I mean, like, don't need to preempt all of these because they're all things I haven't heard of before, but this is the Sarks-Picot or Picot Agreement. Have you heard of this?
No.
So on May the 16th, 1916, Britain and France, there's a lot of secret signings.
Oh.
Britain and France secretly signed the Sarks-Picot Agreement under the assumption that the, quote, sick old man of Europe, the Ottoman Empire, was coming to an end. And Britain and France, they met to decide how they would basically cut up the Middle East and take bits and pieces for themselves.
Right.
It's real gross stuff.
The Brits. And the French. Very good at that.
Have a bit of this.
The third member of the Triple Entente, Russia, was also in attendance, though it had already been agreed in the March 1915 Constantinople Agreement to give Russia Constantinople, now Istanbul, was Constantinople, and the areas around it. So all three had kind of divvied up the Middle East a bit. And this is like the war's still going. They're going, we think this is all falling apart here. What do you want?
You can have that bit.
It's like kids trading cards or something. You know, like kids do.
Kids today.
They still do cards?
With their cards.
Probably holograms now.
Yeah. Probably money all online. Kids don't play in person anymore.
Probably swapping like
Gobbies.
Sorry, that's the way I was going.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
Is that not where you were going? I'm sure it was.
Whoa.
Gobby card.
Yeah, Gobby cards.
Oh, there we go.
Gobby's
Jess playing the Gobby card
Gobby
again.
is a fun little character, like Gumby. It's Gumby's little
Like
brother.
the little elf in Harry Potter.
Yes.
I'm Gobby.
Gobby's world.
Anyway, we're talking about
I need a sock. I need a wank.
we're talking about the Sarks-Picot Agreement. According to Britannica, the agreement led to the division of Turkish-held Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Palestine into various French and British administered areas. The deals made in this secret agreement have created ongoing problems and affected generations of people in the area. Ongoing till today.
Wow.
Trouble in the Middle East, it feels like some of that goes back to this. Drawing borders, just drawing, we'll take a border here. And this is still from Britannica. Even though the borders of the mandates were not determined until several years after the Sarks-Picot Agreement, the fact that the deal set the framework for these borders stoked lingering resentment well into the 21st century. Pan-Arabists opposed splitting up the mostly Arab-populated territories into separate countries, which they considered to be little more than imperialist impositions. Kind of hard to argue with that, even though I don't know more than what I'm telling you. Moreover, the borders split up other contiguous populations like the Kurds and the Druze and left them as minority populations in several countries, depriving their communities of self-determination altogether. Imagine you've got communities in this area and they're drawing lines crisscrossing through it. You're like, but
Yeah.
now we're minorities in these 4 new countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it just feels like no foresight or understanding on how people work. It's like they're playing a board game.
Yeah, it feels so weirdly entitled. Like, we know what's best, obviously. I'll take this. I'll make my own little border here.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what they were even thinking, this is good for them, or they just weren't thinking about that at all. Yeah, so that was something. Here's another wild thing that I didn't know happened during World War One: the Russian Revolution. Again, there's so many things in here that could be their own reports. But anyway, so relatively briefly, according to the worldwar.org, on April the 16th, 1917, having travelled on a sealed train from Switzerland, Vladimir Lenin, never heard of him, returns to Petrograd, or St. Petersburg, after a decade of exile to personally lead the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution's a big old topic. It sounds like it's sort of 2 revolutions in the same year. I'm not going to go into that too much, but potentially we'll do this. I mean, I just can't. Honestly, you could talk about it for an hour and scratch the surface of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through it very briefly. From 1914 to 1916, Russia's army mounted several offensives on World War I's Eastern Front. We talked about last week, the Eastern Front was basically the French and German border, whereas the Russian was German and... the Eastern Front was the German and Russian line.
The Western Front is the French
Did I say
one.
that the wrong way around?
I think you said Eastern twice.
Good. So the Western Front is the French side, Eastern Front is the Russian side. Isn't it good that I came in and go, I'll help simplify this by making it way more baffling? Wait, there's 2 Eastern Fronts on each side of the country?
If you keep going east.
Yeah, go east far enough.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is from history.com. Defeat on the battlefield combined with economic instability and the scarcity of food and other essentials led the mounting discontent among the bulk of Russia's population, especially the poverty-stricken workers and peasants. This increased hostility was directed toward the imperial regime of Tsar Nicholas II, Nicky, and his unpopular German-born wife Alexandra. Russia's simmering instability exploded in the Russian Revolution of 1917, spearheaded by that man, Vladimir Lenin, and the Bolsheviks, which ended Tsarist rule and brought a halt to Russian participation in World War One. So they were still fighting in the World War, but they were doing it real tough. The revolution occurs, and the new leaders go, we're not in this war anymore. Russia reached an armistice with the Central Powers in early December 1917, freeing German troops to face the remaining allies on the Western Front. So this is a big shot in the arm for the Germans.
They can fight in one spot, basically.
Yeah, that's right. So this 2-front war, I mean, there's fronts all over over the world now, but the main European ones, they're able to take away a bunch of troops they were using against the Russians. What happened to Nicholas? I was saying before, it did not end well for Nicky and Willy. It was definitely worse for Nicky than Willy. Nicholas and his family were held prisoner until the following year, when at the age of 50, the last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II, was executed with his wife and daughters on the 17th of July 1918, and some of his servants as well. The photos, it looks like it's like a little homestead in the sticks somewhere. and they were taken out there, taken down in the basement, read the rights, whatever, and killed, brutally murdered.
Oh.
According to Britannica, in a slightly, all good things come to an end, but in a slightly more positive note, according to Britannica, on August the 20th, 2000, the Russian Orthodox Church canonized the emperor and his family, designating them passion bearers, the lowest rank of sainthood, but a sainthood nonetheless.
Okay.
Because of the piety they had shown during their final days.
Passion bearers.
Passion bearers.
Sounds like a delicious drink.
It
Yeah,
does
yum.
sound nice, doesn't it?
What are you guys having? You want a passion bearer?
Passion bearer? PB, please.
What flavour?
I'll go with passion fruit.
Interesting. I'm going to get a berry.
Okay.
Matt, I know you. Watermelon.
Plain.
Oh, delicious plain.
So they were executed because that was all official under the new regime. And it wasn't until October the 1st, 2008, when Russia's Supreme Court ruled that the executions were acts of unfounded repression and granted the family full rehabilitation. Obviously, too little, too late in terms of
And
their lives, but
resurrection, I assume.
yeah, and full resurrection.
And sorry.
Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that's
Wow.
hectic.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor old Nicky. There's a whole other story that I wanted to talk about, and now I feel like I'm going to do it briefly. But the British were going to, his cousin in King, it's Henry V, right, in Britain, was going to, they were very close as well.
George.
George, sorry. And he was going to give them sanctity or whatever over in Britain. But then that was going to be a bit on the nose, and they were nervous about that, so... still not known if it was King George or the Parliament, but probably King George sort of reneged on it, which meant that
They stayed behind and got
executed. Yeah. So that's pretty full on. So let's talk China, biggest country in the world. Mm-hmm. To this point, China had remained neutral in the war, according to the Smithsonian. Because it was only today that I'm like, what was China's role? They must have been involved somehow, but there was no real mention of them, so I had to hunt it out a little bit more. I found this seemingly good article on the Smithsonian, which I'm going to quote from here. Under the rule of the Qing dynasty, China was the most powerful nation in the East for nearly 3 centuries. But losing the first Sino-Japanese war to Japan in 1895 put an end to that. You reckon I'm saying that right? Sino, S-I-N-O. Sino-Japanese war. The Chinese people suffered political chaos, economic weakness, and social misery, writes historian Professor Xu in his book Strangers on the Western Front. He goes on, but this was also a period of excitement, hope, high expectations, optimism, and new dreams, because China believed it could use the war as a way to reshape the geopolitical balance of power and attain equality with European nations. There was only one problem. At first, none of the Allies wanted China to join the fight with them, interestingly. Although China declared itself neutral at the start of the war in August 1914, China's president, Picot, had secretly offered British Minister John Jordan 50,000 troops to retake Qingdao, which we talked about in part 1. Jordan refused the offer, but Japan would soon use its own armed forces to oust the Germans from the city, and they remained there throughout the war. So Japan was sort of... in this, what was a Chinese territory, Japan is sort of there now. And for whatever reason, Britain didn't want China to do that themselves. I don't fully understand. There'd be a reason for this. Someone's yelling at their iPod right now. But so I mentioned this story and how China's neutrality was also breached by Japan on their way to defeating Germany at Qingdao. Well, according to History.com, that to rub salt in the wound, that January, Japan presented China with the so-called 21 demands, and these included the extension of direct Japanese control over most of Shantung, southern Manchuria and eastern Inner Mongolia, and the seizure of more territory, including islands in the South Pacific controlled by Germany. So Japan's really, at this point, lording it over them a bit. Back to the Smithsonian article. By February 1916, with men dying in huge numbers in Europe, Jordan, this is the British minister, came around to the idea of Chinese aid as they're losing thousands and thousands.
Yeah, actually, that'd be great.
Like, you've got got guys who could send in? Maybe we'll...
Maybe that. You know what?
What I said.
All right. Why not?
I'm willing.
Why
I'll give you a
not?
go. I'll give you a go.
I'll give you a go. I'm not desperate.
Trial period.
Yeah, I'll give you a go.
Yeah. All right. You've got 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But there was a stipulation. China could join with the Entente provided that Japan and the other allies accepted her as a partner.
China is a woman.
China is a woman in this article. As a feminist, I stand by that.
Me too. China can be woman.
So
China can be woman too.
Yes.
So Japan refused to allow Chinese soldiers to fight. They wanted, hoping to remain the powerhouse in the east. So Japan's like, nah, China can't be involved in the war. If China couldn't fight directly, their President Shikei's advisors decided the next best option was a secret show of support towards the Allies.
They seem really keen to be involved in the war. I would sort of be going, do you guys want me? No? All
anything?
right.
Hey,
I
you want the
offered.
bar? Do you want to drink? Nothing?
100%.
Hey, let's all note that I offered.
Yeah, and then when they're like, no, thank you, I'd be like, oh, thank God for that.
God. But
They want a seat at they want a seat at the table. They want to be back on the world stage. They were a big power for I think we've lived through this tiny blip when China wasn't the big world power. I think through so much of history they have been, and it's there again now.
And
she's there again now.
Yeah, she is.
very good.
Very good.
You were making a joke about President Xi?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you were honestly. I was like, that's a great pun.
Well, you would know as the pun master.
Pun master, thank you very much. But are they also hoping that, hey, if we help out Europe, maybe they'll help us out with this little Japanese problem?
Yeah, I just think they want to be in there up with the big boys. But yeah, they want a seat at the table after the war to discuss how things are.
Yeah, it'd be great if they weren't in here anymore, wouldn't it?
Hey, what do you guys think of Japan?
It'd be great if China had China again.
So I'm talking very naively about all this. I'm basing all this off this one article. I'm sure there's other sides, like the Japanese will be like, no, we had rights to certain things or whatever,
Of course.
So they go, we're gonna send secret support by sending men in there, not as troops but as labourers, and starting in late.
It's like security guards.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to give them a gun, whatever.
We can carry stuff with guns.
Yeah, we'll carry guns.
We'll carry guns.
And if one so happens to fire, shoot a German in the face. It was a happy accident.
I'm just gonna start shooting my gun in this direction, and if any of the enemy walks into that stream of bullets, then that's on them.
So be it.
So, starting in late 1916, China began shipping out thousands of men to Britain, France, and Russia. Those labourers would repair tanks, assemble shells, transport supplies and munitions, and help to literally reshape the war's battle sites. I read somewhere else in this article, they were like, a lot of the trenches were dug by Chinese men.
Huh.
Cool, I did not know that.
I did not know that. If true, did not check against another source at all. So, since China was officially the Smithsonian's pretty legit.
Yeah.
Since China was officially neutral, commercial businesses were formed to provide the labour. So it's like they're not fighting for us. We're just paying them for their work. But then the United States' entrance into World War I shifted the political dynamics of the Allies, with US officials supporting China's cause with an eye towards the war's end. China's position became more fraught when Germany announced its strategy of unrestricted submarine warfare, as we discussed in part 1.
Submarines.
The U-boats
So stupid.
that ended up kind of bringing the Americans into the war.
The underwater blimps.
Yeah, that's right.
They're fucking dumb.
Zeppelins of the sea.
Anything with a periscope is stupid.
Well, one of the attacks of these U-boats killed more than 500 Chinese labourers aboard the French ship Athos in February of 1917. Finally encouraged by the US and believing it was the only sure way to be considered in the eventual peace agreements, China declared war on Germany on August 14th, 1917. And though little changed in the support they provided, since they had already been sending labourers, but they were now officially in the war. All right. So now, have you heard of this? President Woodrow Wilson's 14-point plan.
Yeah, I have. Yep.
You a fan of the plan?
Big fan of the plan, especially number 8, is it?
Yes, that's everyone's favourite.
Yeah, number 8's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I agree with
Bit
that
of a
one.
fan of 6 as well.
Like 6?
To be honest.
I thought 3 didn't need to be there.
Yeah, could not agree more.
Just saying.
Could not agree more.
8 and 6, real good. Number 3, I mean, basically repeating.
Yeah. It's like you just wanted to sort of...
He thought
really-
13-point plan. That sounds unlucky.
Yeah, you were just trying to
Which one
flesh
was your
out-
favourite again? Sorry?
Number 8 for me,
8.
and Jess thought 6 was great
Yeah.
too.
8. All French territory should be freed and the invaded portions restored, and the wrong done to France by Prussia in 1871 in the matter of Alsace-Lorraine,
Yeah.
which has settled the peace of the world for nearly 50 years,
Yeah, Dave
should be
likes it.
righted
Yep.
in order that peace may once more be made secure in the interest of all.
Dave, isn't that your tramp stamp?
Yes, it is. You cannot argue against it, so I
Word
got
for
it
word.
inked.
Yeah.
And number 6, I believe, was also a good one, Matt.
That's a longer one, but okay.
Maybe a summary there?
Yeah, I'll give you the top part. The evacuation of all Russian territory and such a settlement of all questions affecting Russia as will secure the best and freest cooperation of the other nations of the world in obtaining for her an unhampered and unembarrassed opportunity for the independent determination of her own political development and national policy. Wow, this is a real run-on
Bit of
sentence, isn't it?
feminism, we love that.
Yeah. Oh, countries used to be women.
So number 6 is
Bring
my
it back.
favourite because I don't understand a word of it.
But
I think it's basically going, yeah, let Russia go back to how it was.
let Russia be
pre-war.
Russia.
Because in
Let Russia be Russia.
when Russia pulled out, had the armistice with Germany, they gave concessions, obviously, because they were pulling out. Basically, not quite surrendering. The armistice is somewhere between. It's just like them agreeing to stop fighting. But the country who's going, can we sign an armistice? They normally come off second best. Anyway.
Number 3 was the one I disagree with.
Oh, you didn't agree with
Didn't need
yeah,
to
we
be
thought
there.
it doesn't need to be there.
the removal, so far as possible, of all economic barriers and the establishment of an equality of trade conditions among all the nations consenting to the peace and associating themselves for its maintenance.
Yeah,
What does
felt
that
like a
mean?
Duh, you know?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't need to be said.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Anyway, the 14 points. We agree with most of them.
Yes. So on January the 8th, 1918, American President Woodrow Wilson spoke before a joint meeting of Congress and outlined his 14-point plan for long-lasting peace following World War One. He was an idealist. He thought the world could live in peace, and you just got to follow my
Woodrow.
14-point plan.
Oh, Woodrow. And look at us now, living in peace, all of us.
Well, thanks, mate.
Pretty
Your
good.
plan.
Yeah, I think there was a pretty long-lasting peace after World War One, wasn't it? According to History.com, although they didn't really follow the plan, who knows if they followed the 14-point plan. This is from History.com. Wilson's proposal called for the victorious Allies to set unselfish peace terms with the vanquished Central Powers of World War One, including freedom. And the war's still going as well. And
But they're feeling-
it's relatively even at the start of 1918. You know, it's not like death throes of the battle. So it's interesting. He's coming and going, come on.
Hey, winners.
You're losing.
Let's be honest.
We're going to give you a good deal, though. But that's what he's suggesting, and this is what did not happen. So this does feel like, in hindsight, might have been good. Unselfish peace terms, including freedom of the seas, the restoration of territories conquered during the war, and the right to national self-determination in such contentious regions as the Balkans. So let people rule themselves. A lot of stuff makes sense there. Several points address specific territorial issues in Europe, but the most significant sections set the tone for post-war American diplomacy and the ideals that would form the backbone of US foreign policy as the nation achieved superpower status in the early 20th century. Wilson could foresee that international relations would only become more important to American security and global commerce. He advocated equal trade conditions, arms reduction, and national sovereignty for former colonies of Europe's weakening empires. The speech was translated and distributed to soldiers and citizens of Germany and Austria-Hungary. So it was, it's quite a positive, let's look at let's work together sort of thing. Which wasn't as popular with like the Britons and that. They're like, what do you mean?
What do you mean we have to give up those countries?
Yeah.
What? What's this guy
You're
smoking?
letting them figure out their own stuff? I don't know about this. Point 14. was his idea of a League of Nations, suggesting a general association of nations must be formed under specific covenants for the purpose of affording mutual guarantees of political independence and territorial integrity to great and small states alike. Whatever that means, but you know what it means. It's sort of like it was kind of a proto-UN.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's leave that to the side for one moment. We'll come back to that. That stuff comes back post-war. Here's a little throwaway section. This is from the worldwar.org. On March .org.
Thank you.
On March the 8th.
I had no idea what he was talking
Yeah.
about.
On March the 8th, 1918, Camp Funston at Fort Riley in Kansas made the first report of influenza. The disease spread overseas to the Western Front. Over the next year, this, quote, Spanish influenza kills 20 million worldwide. It's funny, it's because I only learnt that very recently that it did not start in Spain. Should be called the Kansas influenza.
Well, the Camp Funston.
Oh, Camp Funston influenza? I almost feel like I want to get it.
Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
like, sign me up.
Having fun at Camp Funston?
It's kind of like a flu, but you like sneeze bubbles.
Yeah.
You know?
And your nose goes real red and sore, but it honks.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah, but that influenza wasn't. So,
That
I mean,
was
that missed
quite deadly,
opportunity.
quite
Missed
deadly.
opportunity
Yes.
there. It's
And
marketing.
it's all in the branding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a rebrand.
That's all I'm saying. Let's have a bloody rebrand. Anyway, let's get back to the war.
Yes.
Enough talk about flus.
Yeah.
So we're 20 million. Holy shit! That's got to
Isn't that
affect. That's
fucking
got to
wild?
affect the outcome, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think because it was affecting both sides.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
if it affected my guess would be that it affected in the way that both sides like, oh, we
Holy
are
shit.
knackered.
Yeah.
Gotta
We're
wrap this up.
losing more and more people from all sorts of things now. Not just bullets anymore. I don't even talk about the gases they were using. They were using these full-on gases on both sides.
Yeah,
and
nasty
really,
stuff.
really fucked up stuff. But anyway, let's get back to the war. Enough of that fucked up chat. So with the Russians out of the war, Germany was able to bolster its troops on the Western Front. That's from history.com. On July the 15th, 1918, German troops launched what would become the last German offensive of the war, attacking French forces, joined by 85,000 American troops, as well as some British. But I mean, it would feel so unfair. You're German, you're like, we're already fighting so many countries. And all of a sudden, because we admittedly blew up boats of theirs, all of a sudden they've come into the war and they are against us. But yeah, so that was in the Second Battle of the Marne. Very decisive battle. The Allies successfully pushed back the German offensive and launched their own counter-offensive just 3 days later. After suffering massive casualties, Germany was forced to call off a planned offensive further north in the Flanders region, stretching between France and Belgium, which was envisaged as Germany's best hope of victory. They still had hopes, but the Second Battle of Marne seems to have snuffed them out a fair bit. Turned the tide of the war decisively towards the Allies, who were able to regain much of France and Belgium in the months that followed.
And what year was that?
That's 1918. So
Right.
we're in the final. We're on the home
Sure.
stretch now.
But before that, you were saying it was looking all right.
It was, yeah, just before, like, it
Could
was
go.
still, Germany they were still feeling positive. But, yeah, it was hard. Things only get harder from here for them as well. It's by the second half of 1918, it was all falling apart for the Central Powers. Quote, despite the Turkish victory at Gallipoli, later defeats by invading forces and an Arab revolt that destroyed the Ottoman economy and devastated its land, was really putting the Ottoman Empire under the sword. If that's a phrase. To the sword.
Oh, like under the sword.
Under the sword.
Under the sword.
Under the sword. This is from another... I reckon I've quoted from maybe 8 different History.com articles. They really love this war.
They are war mad over
They
there.
love it.
My God.
God.
Have you ever watched the History Channel? Jesus. I mean, admittedly, World War II even more so, but they love this shit.
Yeah, and Hitler. They love Hitler.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I don't know if they love
They
Hitler.
love Hitler.
They love chatting Hitler.
They love it. Hitler, where is he now?
Yeah. What's he up to?
Yeah, there's a lot of shows like finding Hitler's final
bunker,
destination.
finding his grave, finding his body, finding his location in Argentina.
Yes, he's got to Argentina. Yeah, I'm like, I reckon if you're going to find him, I would have heard about it before watching this reality show looking documentary.
That's a good point.
Finding Hitler's son. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Finding Hitler's under Antarctic bunker. So this is from another History.com article. On October the 30th, 1918, aboard the British battleship Agamemnon.
Agamemnon. That famous ship.
Agamemnon. Agamemnon.
Freddie Mercury knows that one, actually.
He quotes that in a few of his songs.
Agamemnon.
Battleship Agamemnon. All right, I think what you said was better.
Agamemnon.
So that was anchored in the port of Mudros in the Aegean islands of Lemnos. Representatives of Great Britain and the Ottoman Empire signed an armistice treaty marking the end of Ottoman participation in the First World War.
Oh.
By its terms, Turkey had to open the Dardanelles, which we were talking about before, very important little strip of water.
Little back door.
Little
chuff.
And
Wet chuff.
Tiny chuff.
so they had to open up the Dardanelles and the Bosporus Straits to Allied warships. So, this is another tough thing for the Central Powers to cop there. And they also had to open their forts to military occupation. It was also to demobilize its army, release all prisoners of war, and evacuate its Arab provinces, the majority of which were already under Allied control. The Ottoman Empire refused to paint the treaty as an act of surrender for Turkey, later causing disillusionment and anger in Constantinople, their capital. But in fact, that is what it was. The Treaty of Madras ended Ottoman participation in World War I and effectively, if not legally, marked the dissolution of a once mighty empire. It was basically the end of the Ottoman Empire. Not officially, that didn't happen until November the 1st, 1922. But basically, it was done then. The Russian and Ottoman empires have now collapsed. So this war's taken out two, the
empires.
The Tsarist rule had been for centuries gone. The Ottoman Empire, which had been a massive power, it was fading, but this is what snuffed it out quicker than it would have otherwise.
You said like the Sultan was the absolute leader.
Yes, sort of like the King of Kings.
Yeah,
the King of Kings, like in terms of religion and
yes.
and military.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
But there's still a couple to go. Next up, Austria-Hungary. At the Battle of Vittorio Veneto, fought from October the 24th to November the 4th in 1918, so we're getting very close to the end now, Italy won a decisive victory in what would become the final offensive launched on the Italian front during the war. While their army fought on the Italian front, the Austrian-Hungary Empire was falling apart back home. For instance, the provisional Czechoslovak government in Prague declared independence from the empire. Well, mid-war, they're like, we're bailing. And Hungary, I don't know if you've heard of that, the Hungary and Austria-Hungary also dissolved their union with Austria.
Oh, dear.
Not surprisingly, things weren't going so well on the battlefield either. Like, the empire's falling apart. You think the army's going, well, we're going okay. Not really. According to Britannica, short of equipment, rations, and manpower, the Austro-Hungarian army was no longer a coherent fighting force. Some units simply abandoned their positions and began marching home to their new nation states. Like, we're free of you now. We're going to go.
Wow.
Yeah, like if you're Czech or whatever, you're like, okay, well, I don't represent you anymore.
Yeah.
Laters. From October 30th, the Italian advance was slowed only by its rapidly growing number of prisoners.
Oh, wow.
So they're just ploughing through. On the 3rd of November, an armistice was signed to come into effect on the following day, on the 4th. The Austro-Hungarian command ordered its men to cease hostilities after the signing, but the Italians continued their advance, taking many more prisoners and reaching the Eizonzo River without opposition, which was that battleground which they fought over 12 battles at the Eizonzo. So said that differently every time. I looked, the first one I wrote out phonetically for myself. and I didn't do it again.
Yeah,
I reckon I got
always
it pretty
do that.
close the first time.
I always do that. I do it with the first one, and I'm like, and then I'll remember for the rest.
I suppose no.
But I don't.
I mean, and I'm Swiss Italian.
That's why a couple of weeks ago I just called that guy Fritz the whole time.
1/16 Swiss Italian, sorry.
Because I couldn't, because his surname confused me every time.
It's a great name, whatever it was.
Duquesne.
Oh, Duquesne. Because it reminded me of Andy
Dufresne. Exactly. That's how I remembered in the end.
And he broke out of a prison as well.
I know, yeah.
Whoa.
He titled out. It's incredible.
Being 1/16 Swiss Italian, how are you feeling about, who your allegiances to?
The Swiss part of me is very neutral.
Yeah, that's right. So 1/32nd of you is neutral.
I think because the Swiss Italian thing is it's just Italians right on the border.
Right on the border.
On the other side, I think into Switzerland maybe is what it was. So I think it's sort of like what they were talking about. They were trying to get their Italian-speaking people back on the right side. So I don't know how I fit. I really need to look into my heritage a bit more. The worldwar.org concludes of the Italian war effort, quote, "At the beginning of the war, the Italian army boasted less than 300,000 men. Tiny army.
Pish posh.
I could take them myself."
That's so cute.
Australia nearly had that many casualties, mate.
Yeah.
But mobilisation greatly increased its size to more than 5 million by the war's end.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so that by this time in November 1918, when they were marching through, approximately 460,000 were killed and 955,000 were wounded in the conflict. So pushing up towards 1.5 million casualties and deaths. Wild. And they didn't even start. They were neutral at the start of the war. Yeah, so they had some full-on battles. So now Austria-Hungary are gone. Not only out of the war, but they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So Germany's running out of allies pretty quick.
Guys?
Where are you guys going? And soon it was their turn. Again from history.com. By November 1918, both the Allies and the Central Powers, who'd been battering each other for 4 years, were pretty much out of gas. I love that language on history.com.
Oh, yeah.
Out of
They know
gas.
how to
They're out of
talk.
juice.
But there's also, you got to remember, apart from the wars, there's also this flu that's just tearing through as well.
That's crazy.
German offensives that year had been defeated with heavy casualties, and in late summer and fall, the British, French, and US forces had pushed them steadily back. With the United States able to send more and more fresh troops into combat,
Fresh.
the German...
Fresh is just such a weird way to describe people going to their death. you know?
Yeah.
We got some fresh ones. Okay.
Where's the humanity?
Yeah.
So the Germans were outmatched. As Germany's allies crumbled around them as well, the war's outcome seemed clear. In late 1918, popular unrest in Germany combined with a naval mutiny, which is a whole other thing. The German Navy went on strike.
Far out.
Anyway, so that's not ideal.
And you know what Navy has? Subs.
Oh, no, you've lost your subs.
They are stupid.
Oh, we don't have subs. Who cares?
Who cares? Whoop-de-frickin'-do. Good.
So this unrest in Germany and the German population convinced civilian political leaders that the Kaiser had to abdicate to preserve order. In fact, Wilhelm's abdication was announced on November 9th, 1918, before he had actually consented to it.
Oh, well, they put out the press release and he was reading it going, hang on, what?
Wait,
He found out
it's on the auto cue.
in the local mag.
Yeah.
He agreed.
Sorry, can I get a copy of
It
that?
was on his Instagram feed. He's like, what the fuck?
I'm going to make a few
Oh.
changes here. No, we can't allow
Sorry.
any of that. Sorry.
I
this
have not signed this.
has to be read verbatim.
about that.
No. But he agreed to leave when the leaders of the army told him he'd lost their support as well. On November the 10th, the former emperor took a train across the border. So this is his story ends. He's like it's the end of the empire of Germany, but he gets to live out his life. On November the 10th, the former emperor took a train across the border into the Netherlands, which had remained neutral throughout the war. He eventually bought a manor house in the town of Dawn and remained there for the remainder of his life.
Okay. All right. So he did okay.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways,
Yeah. Was that Wilhelm?
that's Wilhelm.
So he did better than his cousin.
Yes,
Much better.
Willy did better than Nicky.
Willy and
Yeah.
Nicky. So wouldn't it have been nice if they both just got exiled and they could keep sending each other telegrams? I really feel for Nicholas. I mean, I feel for everyone because I'm an empath. So this is the 10th of November. Remember the 10th of November.
Yes.
Following day. Pretty important date, you might recall.
Remember the 11th of November.
In Australia, it's called Remembrance Day.
Well, I mean,
apparently, it's called Armistice Day elsewhere.
Oh.
It's also called, I think it's called Veterans Day in America, and they use it to remember all the major wars, I think, now. Anyway, according to History.com, this is why it's an important date. Germany agreed to harsh terms. Let me say that on the 11th of November, they signed an armistice agreement with the Allies. And they agreed to harsh terms. The Germans agreed to pull their troops out of France, Belgium, and Luxembourg within 15 days or risk becoming prisoners of the Allies. They had to turn over their arsenal, including 5,000 artillery pieces, 25,000 machine guns, and 1,700 airplanes. You know, they had great planes in there, Dave. You were telling us about a few weeks ago.
That's right, but the Red Baron, he's long gone by this time.
That's right. As well as
how many submarines they have to hand over?
I don't know if they have to hand over submarines.
Because the Allies were like, don't worry about it.
U-boats.
Yeah, I don't want to fucking have to store them.
Always pictured boats in the shape of a U.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Even though I know that they're submarines.
Is it underwater boat? Is that why it's called a U-boat?
I think it's a long German word.
For underwater?
What is that word?
Is it for underwater?
Umbrecht or something like that.
Is it?
Dave, you want to look that up?
Does it mean underwater?
Probably.
If it doesn't mean underwater, it's like, what the fuck is the point of submarines?
Probably something like Unterwater? Because our languages are actually quite related.
Prepare yourself, Jess.
Oh my God.
U-boat is an anglicised version of the German word U-boot, a shortening of Unterseeboot.
Under the sea.
Unterseeboot.
That's awesome.
It's literally an underwater boat.
I don't understand your trouble with it.
I just think they're a bit silly.
I understand how you don't like accountants more than this, and I like accountants. They do fine work.
I just think...
Unterseeboot.
I just think there's something that when you think too much about them, as I obviously have, you go, that's a bit silly.
What do you think of fish? They're like underwater
Oh my God, fish are
beings.
dumb, aren't they?
Really? It's just things underwater.
I
People
don't
in a
like
bath?
underwater. No, because you're only partially submerged.
Okay. So like divers. Scuba diving?
Don't like it.
Don't like it.
But
Interesting.
snorkeling, fine.
Okay, because you've got the pipe hanging out the top,
Yeah,
maybe the back of your head.
You come out every now and then and go,
Right.
Did you come across...
that's how I snorkel
Yeah.
anyway. Yes, David.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this. I just thought of it and I was like, better fact check that this thing I heard is actually correct. The Compiègne wagon,
No.
where they signed the armistice.
Oh, yeah, I did read about it, but yeah, it was it. Just to get there, they had to telegram ahead and go, hey,
Yeah.
we want to come and meet about it, signing an armistice. And they'd been talking about it for months. And then so they're driving through no man's land in France, like weaving through, the barbed wire and massive craters in the ground and stuff is how I'm picturing it. And then they caught an overnight, they had to get into a French bus, then an overnight train. They were like traveling nonstop. And the politicians or the representatives of Germany who went there, no one really wanted to do it because they're going to and the guy who headed it, he ended up getting murdered by an extremist German group within a few years, I think.
Oh, shit.
Just because he was the guy who was there
Yeah.
who signed the deal.
Wow.
Well, it had to be someone.
Yeah.
I just bring it up because so they signed in a train carriage on November the 11th, 1918.
Yes.
And then it went into a museum.
Oh.
And then when Hitler came to power, he said, let's take it out of the museum. And then when they invaded France in 1940 and Germany were victorious over France, like they invaded Paris, all that sort of stuff, he put the train back in exactly the same spot and made the French people sign the new agreement, but with Germany victorious this time in exactly the same place as a power move.
I've said it before. Hitler's such a bitch.
What a bitch.
A bitch.
He brought it out, was like, well, I guess the glove is on the other foot. Under Seaboot.
We don't mention, but he was fighting for the I think the Bavarian army or something.
Oh shit!
During
I didn't
this
even
war.
think about that.
Yeah.
I forgot Hitler was around.
That's
then.
right.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like he just kind of appeared, and then disappeared.
Yeah, but he was a boy.
Yes.
He grew up, and it's funny. He had dreams of being an artist and all this sort of stuff. So that's what they say. If he was better at art, the world would have been a very different place.
If only he was better at art.
The people this must be a concept of comics done before, but people always talk about, you see heaps of people do some version of the joke about go back and kill baby Hitler. We go back and give him
better
art
teacher.
tutoring.
Yeah.
No, just give him praise.
Praise.
That's what you want.
Right.
Tell him it's good. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Mate, this is
Like,
fantastic.
wow.
Yeah, you just
You're
take
amazing.
cash back and you set up
just
a gallery and just
buy all his work. Especially with inflation, if you took back like $100,000 back then.
they'd be like, "What is this? What is this weird money?"
Oh yeah. There's no you can't exchange it, can you?
No, you just if you put it into a bank back then and then withdraw it from one of their ATMs.
Okay. Okay. Dave, we've solved it.
Great.
So
Change history for the better.
So you're right, Dave. They're doing this on this carriage. It's an amazing.
I just remember hearing that being like, what an asshole.
Yeah, it's just like, man. So what is this about? It's just like the belief that Germany deserves.
Yeah.
Like he had it in his head that it had a right or a Reich to be there, I guess.
Pun King.
So the list goes on about the things they had to give over. 5,000 trucks, 150,000 wagons. They also had to give up
60,000 Big Macs.
to go.
Put a joke one in there. See if they do it. Oh, they did it.
Pull out all the
Right.
blue M&Ms. Yeah. And they also agreed to the indignity of Allied forces occupying German territory along the Rhine, where they would stay until 1930. And that was seen as, there were people in Germany, I'm guessing, sounds like maybe Hitler was one of them, who was like, this is a real kick in the teeth. So then a few months later, the war's now over, Bopper. It's done.
Wow.
But
Woohoo!
the aftermath, so people are celebrating, obviously.
Ending of war. That's good.
A lot of people celebrating, but they're also like almost definitely loved ones that have died from.
Yes.
Everyone knows multiple people who have died in countries all around the world. So it's sort of celebrating, but it's also like, holy fuck, well, that was fucking hectic.
Probably word for word what people said.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Oh.
That was fucking hectic, eh?
Truth.
2 months later, a conference was held at Versailles, outside of Paris, to work out the final peace treaty. But things didn't go smoothly as the disparate Allied powers attending the conference all wanted different things.
Huh. So hang on. People who'd just been at war are now coming together and they all want different things.
It's funny, especially like Britain and France, who've been enemies for so long. It's weird they don't want everything to go exactly the same as each other.
baffling.
Very strange. But it took a lot of negotiating between the Allies.
God.
They eventually agreed on a position. It's from History.com, another History.com article. In the agreement that was signed in June, vanquished Germany was forced to accept harsh terms, including paying reparations that eventually amounted to $37 billion
Whoa.
in 1918 money, or 1919 money. Nearly $492 billion today.
Shit.
That humiliation and the lasting bitterness it engendered helped pave the way to another world war 2 decades later.
Wait,
I'm
what?
thinking that 2 days later. That's it. We're invading.
So, yeah, and I feel like we all need a break, listeners and us, probably, from the war stuff. But I'd be interested in doing maybe in a year or something, doing a similar sort of World War II series. Well, let us know, listeners, if I imagine there's some of you out there going, please, enough of
No.
the war.
Get
But
back
I'm
to your
talking
silly
about-
little stories.
Talking about down the track, because I've learned so much.
Well, the director of the History Channel is loving this.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Well, speaking of, another History.com article continues. At the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, Allied leaders stated their desire to build a post-war world that would safeguard itself against future conflicts of such devastating scale. Not super successfully. Some hopeful participants had even begun calling World War One the war to end all wars, which it's still known as now.
I know, but never. Why do you do that?
You're
the
jinxing it.
unsinkable ship.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
That's right.
Shut up. Now we're definitely going to have way more wars.
Exactly. Exactly.
And let me tell you, I think we did have a few more wars.
Yeah, we had
What?
a couple. And all these decisions that were made at this time have just set up the world for multiple more wars. Almost non-stop fighting. Because before this, there was hardly any.
It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why we fight each other so much.
No.
Like, because it's sort of like, it's like getting into a fight with a sibling, but you're like in the car on a long drive. Like, you get over the fight, but you still have to both sit next to each other.
Yeah.
You know? Like, we can't move countries to a different planet. We still have to all be next to each other.
And you're like, hope they don't seek revenge.
Yeah.
Make me sit on the same train cart. But but that says something, right? The Allies were too brutal to Germany after this, and that's the common
It's a
wisdom
big
now.
part, yeah.
If they did what old mate Woodrow said, Woodrow Wilson, and were just made it like less of losers and winners and more just, hey, this is what we're going for peace.
Yeah.
Because you can blow the world to pieces, but you can't blow the world to peace.
Who's that
Wait.
from again?
Michael Franti.
What a
What kind
guy.
of blow are we talking?
Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Rack 'em up.
Okay. You could do that to peace.
I bet the Versailles Treaty
Lot of-
signing there would have just been everyone. It's not really signed until everyone's done a line. Sign on the dotted line, and they're winking at each other.
Someone's
It's like
like,
we all get it.
I'm very confused. Wait, what?
So it was signed on June 28th, 1919. Did not achieve these lofty goals. Saddled with war guilt, heavy reparations, and denied entrance into the League of Nations, Germany felt tricked into signing the treaty, having believed any peace would be peace without victory, as put forward by President Wilson in the 14-point speech from the year prior, the one that was translated into German and everyone was reading.
Oh, yeah.
it.
They're like, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that was...
Sounds good.
Because the other option was they didn't have to end the war. They could have just kept fighting and retreating back to Berlin, but they were also nervous that, they wanted the war to end, but they also thought ending it now might have been a slightly more equal result. But it just was like, they're like, nah, we win. And now you've got to wear a dress,
Yeah.
Dance, look funny. Hey, I'm going to give you a funny hat. You got to wear a hat that says, I'm a loser. As the years passed, hatred of the Versailles Treaty and its authors settled into a smouldering resentment in Germany that would 2 decades later be counted among the causes of World War II. I talked a little bit earlier about how China was in part of the war, partially to get an invite to this peace conference afterwards. And they did do that, but according to the Smithsonian, China was only given 2 seats at the Paris Peace Conference, whereas Japan had 5. Since the latter had contributed combat troops, that's why they got the extra seats, which is the thing that they didn't let China do.
Right, but they essentially did do that. They just called them labourers.
Well, they didn't. They weren't fighting. They would, they
Right.
were digging trenches. They were fixing machines. They would.
Labouring.
Big part of the...
Yeah, there's a lot of troops do
Yeah.
as well as
Yeah.
that stuff. They just didn't hold weapons, I guess. Matters only devolved from there, and the Western powers ultimately awarded Shandong to Japan. China saw the move as a rejection of its demand to be recognised as an equal player in global politics and as an affront to its sovereignty. According to Professor Zhu, who we talked about before, China was deeply angry at the Versailles Treaty and was the only country at the post-war peace conference to refuse to put a signature on it. this article also talks about this was a real fork in the road for China, but rather than bringing them in to Europe and the world stage and being like democracy and all this sort of stuff, potentially this is the time where they started moving the other way into what's it called? The thing where what's the thing they do now? Reds under the bed.
Oh, communism.
Communism. Thank you.
I wasn't sure which way you were going to describe their political system.
Well, I think that's sort of the way it went.
Yeah, sure.
Which I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm going off this little bit of an article. It's in the show notes. But yeah, that was interesting to me. It's like, so you're sort of saying if they just went at that time, they're like, China, welcome. Good
China,
to
Yeah. Baby.
please.
Take a seat. Take a loader.
Like, who knows? But it's just an interesting idea that how many things changed because of this meeting and how this meeting went. If Germany was brought into the League of Nations, would they and weren't sort of made to feel so awful about losing and embarrassed, basically, they sort of got shamed a bit in that. And then they seeked their vengeance, or they set up the possibility for them to do that because they got in so much debt that the people of Germany got poor, right? Like they were really struggling because they were paying these billions and billions.
Yeah, right.
of dollars.
After you've just lost a
crazy.
big war, like that would have cost you heaps.
When the
as
people
well.
are struggling, they're looking for scapegoats and answers, and that's how. I guess I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure the listeners by now know that I do not, but sort of get what I'm maybe saying. I don't know. All right. Well, just to finish off, let's finish on a high note. Here are some numbers about World War One casualties.
Oh, God.
History.com summarises this. World War One took the lives of more than 9 million soldiers. 21 million more were wounded. Civilian casualties numbered close to 10 million. The two nations most affected were Germany and France. Obviously, that Western Front was real bad. Each of which sent some 80% of their male populations between the ages of 15 and 49 into battle. No, mate, 15 and 49,
15.
80%.
Wow.
Jesus.
The political disruption surrounding World War I also contributed to the fall of 4 venerable imperial dynasties, which we mentioned, but worth repeating: Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, and Turkey. The world was totally changed.
Yeah.
In 4 years, it was just... Then there was all the, the technological advances and all sorts of things as well. Maybe that would have been a more positive thing to finish on. But anyway, that is the end of the epic two-parter about World War One.
Yes. You did it, Matt. Well done. They, and I mean I, said it could not be done, and yet you did it.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Great work.
I feel like I'm going to regret. I'm going to learn more in coming weeks and wish I put different things in, but I guess you can't have everything in there.
Now, why
No.
would you possibly return to reading about it? It's done.
What when you Google a lot of things, my phone will start going, here's an article about World War One. I'll be like, oh, shouldn't read it, but I will.
I probably will, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously just hitting up the History Channel, wherever you can watch that.
Oh, of course.
On the TV, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things we didn't talk about. Dave, you mentioned briefly before we started recording the Easter uprising in Ireland. I've put that up for the vote multiple times. I still feel like that'll be its own report one day.
Yeah.
But, and, a million other small stories. But, yeah, it's a real sad tale. And it's just amazing to think about how it's just this smallish group of people weren't quite able to sort out the differences and then didn't really learn lessons and it happened all again 20 years later or whatever. Or not even 20 years later. Yeah. Just over 20 years later.
Yeah.
Maths is hard.
For the people at home, we turned off the tape for half an hour and brought out the blackboard.
Got the abacus out.
Yeah. No, I'm honestly impressed with your research there, Matt. I know you have basically read every article in History Channel.
If I could shout out one person who helped me through all of this, it would be MrHistory.com.
Oh, what? I mean,
Or
do,
Mrs.
They do what they say on the tin.
Yeah, no, that. What a resource.
So that was really, really good.
Check out the show notes if you want to read a bunch of articles. But, I mean, you just use Google also as another option.
Yeah, Google it yourself.
But history.com is
Don't make Matt
so
do all
good.
the work for you.
We find out this week that history.com is just it's just some guy just typing nonsense out. I'm Mr. History.com. That's really just one guy.
It's one dude.
China had 2 seats.
he's
Japan
quite
had 5
eloquent.
seats.
That sounds
That sounds like
about
something, right?
Yeah.
Versailles. I mean, that's a pretty funny sounding place. That could be real.
Train carriage. Yeah, that'll come back. Yeah, that sounds pretty epic. Yeah, we'll put that in.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that brings us to everyone's favourite section of the show, the fact, quote, or question section. And I think it has a jingle that goes something like this.
Fact, quote, or question.
He always remembers the ding. The way to get involved in this is to go to patreon.com/dogoonpod or dogoonpod.com and sign up on the Sydney Scheinberg Deluxe Memorial Edition package level. There's about 5 levels, I think, at last count. Who can keep up? And all sorts of different price ranges.
Oh, this is the
Got
air
real.
conditioning salesman coming through.
If you haven't been in the salesman game for a long time, but it's all come back to me now.
You never forget.
I'll leave you with the brochure and call me if you got any questions.
Thank you so much. Just ABC.
Always be cucking. So
Conditioning.
Air be conditioning.
You say that as you shake the hand and wink at them. Another sale. Another job well done, Stuart.
So the supporters on there, they keep this show running, and we love them all individually and collectively. And you get all sorts of different bonuses. We're about to record a bonus episode straight after this, which will be out maybe already, actually.
Yeah, it will be.
You're able to get back, and there's like 100 odd.
Well, what do I tell you?
bonus
This
episodes.
is the 100th bonus episode.
Oh, there you go.
And they are still available. So if you want to, you got a long drive coming up. You've run out of Jiggle One podcast.
Some of our best ever episodes are in there as well, I reckon.
Jeff the Talking Mongoose.
Jeff the Talking Mongoose, the 1904 Olympic Marathon,
The Killdozer.
the Killdozer, the history of the nanny.
Yes.
Power Rangers Curse.
Oh, the Power Rangers curse. That's right. So many great stories. There was something about. Was there a foot mystery of feet washing up?
Oh yeah, the Salish Sea Foot Mysteries, where lots of feet have washed up on the west coast of Canada and North USA. And we've just put the most recent episode, report, was about the ice block expedition of 1959.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Right,
great.
yeah.
Where a Norwegian company decided to, basically for a publicity stunt, transport a 3,000 kilo block of ice from the Arctic Circle through the Sahara Desert and down into modern day Gabon onto the equator without refrigeration.
Amazing.
They wanted to see if their insulation was up to the test.
That was a great.
It was
great one.
awesome, yeah.
I think the one I laughed, maybe the time I laughed the most last year was the Siegfried and Roy bonus episode.
Oh, that's right. They had a bit of a wild, life story.
There's D&D. We did a D&D campaign. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff on there. Go check it out. But the reward you get, as well as those bonus episodes on the Sydney Scheinberg level, is you get to give us a fact, a quote, or a question. First up, we've got Brett, bless you, Wall. That's his nickname from me. Brett, bless you, Wall, who's given himself a different nickname, the man with the condom-eating dog.
Oh, no.
Oh, I think I know this guy, Brett. I've spoken to your mum. All right.
About the condom-eating dog?
Yes.
What?
I wonder if this will explain it. Just in case he does, I'll read it out first, and if he doesn't, I'll explain it. Brett's asked a question. His question is, hey, everyone. At the beginning of 2020, my dog ate a used condom of... He's going to explain it.
He's going to explain. All right, great.
My dog ate a used condom of mine. Oh, my
Brag.
What did you use it for? Be specific.
Okay, that was a weird request there, Dave.
But imagine if it was for something else. All right, so I'd run out of that little funnel thing that you use to put, cream on tops of a cake.
Yeah.
So I put a little pinhole in the bottom. They were expired anyway because I haven't used them in so many years.
So at the beginning of 2020, my dog ate a used condom of mine, and it was very upsetting whenever it threw it up in front of my mum. Whenever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like
Did it happen multiple times?
Was this like a regular meal for your dog?
Stop feeding your dog condoms.
He said, I ended up getting Matt to do a cameo for her just to cement the moment in our lives. So cameo is it's like this app where people can get me or
celebrities.
Others. Well, yeah, me or celebrities. The Soup Nazi's on there as well.
Other celebrities like Matt Stewart.
Yeah, other big deals.
To do a message. And I had to message his mum and apologise to her for him.
That's very good. That's good use of technology.
Yeah.
He says, my mum is the greatest person in my life and she's also a huge fan of the show. Oh, that's cool. I wanted to start 2021 the same way we started 2020 with you guys. Can you please say hello to my mum, Lisa Lee, and tell her how awesome she is? She doesn't know about this, so I'm hoping it will be a good surprise. Thanks. Hey, Lisa Lee.
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa was so funny because she then got me to do a return message.
Oh, my God. Do these two ever talk to each other?
The return message was, it was something like, get a job and move out. It was so fun.
Very good. Classic mum gear.
Yeah, I believed it. I wonder if that was true. What a way to find out. Hey, mate, sorry to be the one to have to tell you this, but you are getting kicked out of home.
Move out. You've got 3 months.
So, hello once again, Lisa Lee.
You rule, Lisa Lee.
Hey, Lisa Lee. Sorry that happened, but it seems like you're both in pretty good spirits about it.
Sounds like you got a pretty cool son, if you know what I mean.
And you're a cool mum.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, you mean cool son because he had sex.
And what a cool dog.
Gross.
Because all dogs are cool.
That's true.
I just hope the dog was the dog okay? Do you know that?
I think my dog would be
the dog's
a real
okay,
nerd.
yeah.
Pardon?
I think my dog would. I don't think he'd be very cool.
Your dog's a nerd.
Yeah.
No condoms for your dog.
Definitely no condoms for him. He's never getting laid.
Raw dog in it.
Oh.
Is that where that comes from? Thank you, Brett Wall. Thank you, Lisa Lee. The next one comes from Michael Dorissi. He's given himself the title of Junior Chief Pencil Pusher. And he's also asking a question.
I like it.
Oh, this is interesting, especially considering who was meant to be doing the report this week. Michael asks, oh, hang on. Yeah, I've given him his title. Michael asks, can you guys get Naomi Higgins or Danielle Walker to guest host on the pod after the pandemic? Thanks. Genuinely, she was booked in to do tonight.
This is Naomi.
Naomi, that was, yeah. The World War One episode was initially going to be one long one, and then Naomi couldn't end up doing it. I'm like, I can make it a double. And then in the last, since we recorded the first one, I really expanded it into probably almost was getting towards being able to do 3 weeks. But yes, we definitely can. Naomi will be hopefully doing a report soon.
Sometime soon, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Great request there, Michael.
Would love to have Danielle on as well. She has moved to Sydney, which makes it a little bit harder, but not impossible.
I didn't know that. Damn.
Yeah, she just moved a couple of months ago.
We lost her.
I know. Lost another good one.
She'll be back.
This one comes from Jordan Nassi, who firstly given himself the title of the one who makes sure Dave remembers the ding and purveyor of fucked facts. Oh
dear.
Here we
Ding.
go. Here is Jordan's fact. Oh, I don't like how this starts. Sorry, this is very long and very fucked. I don't like either of those things.
Oh dear.
The attack of the dead men was a battle. Oh, it's a World War One battle. That works. The attack of the dead men was a World War One battle that took place at the Osawak fortress in northeast Poland. The German soldiers were waiting for the air to pick up before launching a gas attack at the unsuspecting Russian combatants. When they did attack, the invasion began with artillery bombardment combined with chlorine gas. These gases are some of the things I didn't really go into, but I think everyone decided after we're not going to do any of those
let's not do that
gas
again.
stuff anymore. The Germans attacked with 14 battalions of infantry, sappers, siege guns, and artillery. The Russians had around 900 men defending the fortress. Most of the Russian soldiers had either no mask or poorly made gas masks that would soon prove to be no help at all when the Germans attacked with the fumes. The Russians had zero protection. Because the gas mixed with the water in the air and the water in the lungs of the Russian defenders, the Russian soldiers just didn't just choke on the gas, it turned the chlorine into hydrochloric acid, which began to melt their lungs and throats of the soldiers.
Ugh.
Their skin began to peel, resulting in the entire fortress scrambling to halt their decomposition with wet rags. Oh, man. Blood and skin soaked the earth. Plants and birds lay dead in the field. Tree leaves turned brown. The grass became black. And men outside the fort died shortly while the gas entered their respiratory system, dissolving their lungs, and literally started melting them from the inside out. Around 100 of the now furious and dying Russian soldiers survived. The Russians not only stood their ground, but they also prepared a counterstrike, all while falling apart. History reveals that around 100 soldiers remained to stave off the 7,000 German soldiers as they advanced on the fort. Holy shit. So they ended up holding them off.
Wow.
That is like you said.
That's a fucked fact.
Very fucked. Very fucked fact. But you are a purveyor of such things.
Yeah, so we would expect nothing less of you.
Okay, and finally this week, this one comes from Nathan Damon.
Well, good luck following that, Nathan.
Well, he's got the title of Dugon's #1 ticket holder, and he's given us a quote, and it's nice and short.
Not many people give quotes.
No, I
I'm
reckon
excited
it's
about this,
definitely
Nathan.
the lowest amount, I reckon.
All right.
The quote is, right place at the right time. And that quote is from Andrew Gaze on Matt Your Heroes. That was Andrew Gaze, how he justified his career. Guess was just in the right place at the right time. He played at the top level for 20 years or something.
Yeah, right place. It's all about who you know. I think you're incredibly good.
I'm a really good networker.
Yeah.
You've got records across all lines in Australian basketball.
I actually just got discovered in a food court. Right place, right time.
I was just like throwing a drink into a bin, and someone said, "Hey, you could do that for the next 20 years. Come
You've
with me.
got it."
Come with me."
It's funny because even then, you still had to do it.
Yeah.
Bit of luck.
So humble.
He's so humble. Yeah.
What a legend.
What a bloody legend.
That's great. How does it feel to be for one of your projects to be quoted?
In the Fact Quarter question, that means a lot.
How does it feel to be Andrew Gaze's best friend?
Yeah, how's that feel?
That feels very good too.
Wow.
Do you reckon he'd come to my birthday party?
Can you bring Andrew Gaze to Jess's birthday party and then I can meet him, assuming I'm invited as well?
No.
I got someone at the gig tonight. You know Matt Hardy? He's a Aussie comic and Saints fan. He was at the gig tonight.
Saints fan.
And Saints fan. He's written a book about the Saints and.
Right, okay, so he's.
But at the gig tonight, he came up and goes, "You the guy that interviewed Frankie Peckett?" I'm like, "I am." That was fun.
That's nice.
Yeah, because he's one of his favourites as well. I'm like, that's sick. Love your
That's
taste.
great.
Big. Yeah.
And a beautiful friendship was formed.
And then he saw me bomb.
Yeah.
Then he saw me do fine.
Yeah, come on, let's be truthful here.
And I slunk out.
It went fine, which is honestly an absolute win.
Yeah. In these times.
Yeah.
No, I've
No
not,
one's crushed.
I've
in
not
these
I've not
times.
bombed since COVID. I think
Yeah,
COVID's
but have you
been
crushed?
good for me.
Have you crushed?
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yes.
I'm not talking about
And
crushed boxes for the recycling.
Jess, and I'm humble.
Wow, he's really crushed.
All right, well, that takes us to the point where we thank a few of our other great supporters on Patreon, maybe on the Ask Prod level.
Yes!
I say DB Cooper every time, and you always correct me.
It's Ask Prod. Well done. There's no need for me anymore. Bye, guys.
And you just go up into the sky.
I ascend.
So, Jess, you normally come with a little game based on the report. Last week, Dave gave everyone a superpower
That's
country.
right. I don't think we'll do that.
So I think in the
time.
end, it wasn't really the superpowers. He was just naming belligerents.
I mean, we ran out of superpowers.
Well, what could it be
You
this
never
week?
did Austria-Hungary.
What could it be?
What
this
could
week?
it be?
What about?
It's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
There were no fun nicknames in there that I could think
Yeah,
of.
well, because I'm not really going into the individuals all that much. It's
Exactly,
more
yeah.
like an overhead sort of thing.
What about their nickname if they were in the royal families? Then
Yes.
we've got Nicky, Willy.
Nicky,
Got it,
Willy.
okay.
Yep, love it. Are they all just
what
gonna...
their cousins would call them in a telegram.
Yeah, they're signing off being like, yours truly, Nicky.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that is going to end up being a lot of their actual nicknames, but we'll see how we go with this. All right, kicking off first from Ridgecrest in California in the United States, Samantha Martino. Because we can't just go Sammy, can we?
Ricky.
Ricky.
Because Ricky Martin.
Oh, Ricky Martino.
Yeah.
That's good.
What are you singing there, Maddie?
Ricky, don't lose that number.
Ah.
I don't know what it is. Is it from that band you mentioned last week, Foreigner?
No.
Ricky, don't lose
Are you talking,
number.
are you talking Phil Collins?
No, that's Susu Studio. Steely Dan. Oh, I know, I had that in my head because I watched John Mulaney tell a story on some late night show where he goes to see Steely Dan every year, and I'm like, do I know any Steely Dan songs?
Right.
And I looked up and I knew a lot of them. One of them was Ricky, don't lose that number.
Oh, okay. In my defense, Phil Collins does have a song called Billy, Don't You Lose My Number. And
That's
what I
very, very different,
Wow.
Dave.
Oh, yes.
Embarrassingly so.
Very different.
Jess really
Dave.
flipped there.
You really went Italian there.
Billy, Billy, don't you lose my number.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Da, 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 da.
But now that I found you. Yeah, they're different songs.
What a world we
I
live
think
in.
I've just figured that out together. So Ricky, Samantha, Ricky Martino. Hey Ricky, just dropping you a line.
Yeah.
Let's not start a big deal over this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm mobilizing my army along the border of your house. But
just chill, girl.
I'd also love to thank from Houston, Texas, in the United States, Norman Paz.
Ooh, love that.
Paz. What about Norman? I mean, now we're just giving nicknames, but it's going to be better than, you're right, rather just saying Normie.
Yeah.
Norman.
Normie's not a good nickname.
Normie, the dispenser Paz.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Paz dispenser.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
Come on.
Love
Yes,
that.
Love
The
that.
dispenser.
Yeah.
The dispenser.
Good
Yours
Really?
truly,
Name.
the dispenser.
Yeah, maybe we give him their soldier nickname.
The dispenser.
So are we sticking with Ricky for Samantha?
Yes.
Ricky's good. That's a good name.
What was Ricky Martin's big song?
Living the vida
there's so
loca.
Killing La Vida Loca. See, becomes an army thing then.
Wow.
And finally for me, I'd love to thank from Kingsville in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, Beck Taylor.
Beck Taylor, the seamstress.
Oh, okay. I like
Oh.
that.
Like Taylor.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that, but I really like it.
Yeah.
That's
So what does that mean, warlike? How does that
Why would
translate
there have to be war? Maybe she was,
Oh, she was actually fixing tents or something.
yeah, or like their uniform. Uniforms have to be made at some point, don't they?
Also,
True.
like,
they don't
if
just
she-
appear.
I thought she was maybe like cutting the enemy up and then stitching them back together.
Yeah.
or like she could kill them in the night with like a pair of like knitting needles.
Yes.
Beck, that's pretty sick actually.
That's actually really.
And I mean that in a bad way.
Yeah. It's not good.
That's actually gross.
You
Put it
shouldn't
away,
do that, Beck.
Beck,
Can I thank some people as well?
please.
I would love to thank from Kerr Lewis in Victoria.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know where that
who
is.
Kerr Lewis.
I'd love to thank Julian McMahon Hyde.
Oh, Julian McMahon Hyde. The brown bear. The grizzly bear.
Grizzly
Oh,
Bear.
okay.
Hide over the
Okay.
winter,
Yes.
you know, going into
Hibernation. Hibernation.
Hibernation.
Yes.
But you got Grizzly Bear, and that's a cool name.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's
who
great.
cares?
That's really good. So who cares?
Who cares?
So who cares the justification stuff?
yeah. Don't justify. Who cares?
Who cares that you're fumbling around?
No nickname
It's
has a good
terrible.
story. It just sounds good.
Don't worry about it.
The
Sorry,
Grizzly.
Cobra.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Julian, thank you so
It's
much.
called Grizzly after a
Grizzly. I do like, yeah, grizzly bear. Like that.
I would also love to thank from MA,
Massachusetts. Or
And so I was looking at that word originally thinking if it's English, it's going to be like Worcester. But if it's American, it's going to be like Worcester.
there's
It is Massachusetts.
Yes.
And I would love to thank Joy Flanagan.
Joy Flanagan.
That's a good name.
Joy Flanagan.
Okay. Yep.
No, you're right. You.
Well, I'm thinking because the name's Joy.
Yeah.
It would be, there'd be some kind of, what do you think?
No. I'm just thinking if you're on my page here. Yeah, there'd be some kind of.
So it's sort of like how redheads would get called blue. I think if her name's Joy, it's going to be something about sadness.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Glummy.
Glummy.
Oh, bloody Glummy's here. My name is Joy.
Glummy's in the building.
That's good. My instinct was I was going to say the fiddler. I don't know why. Flanagan just felt Irish.
Yeah, okay.
But I think Glummy's better. Joy Glummy Flanagan.
Glummy.
Glummy is better?
Glummy sounds good.
Glummy.
Does it?
Mine was going to
Glummy
be.
sound good?
Mine was going to be Joy the Nurse Flanagan because on Pokemon, remember there was Nurse Joy.
Oh.
No, Dave.
Don't know.
Do you not remember that?
No.
Do you not remember that?
I've had sex.
Have you?
There was one called
Yes.
like Squidgy or something, but that's all I remember.
Squidgymon.
Squidgy. Squidgy 1 and Squidgy 2.
Finally, for me, I would love to thank from Kings North in Great Britain, Emma Hargraves.
Emma Hargraves. Oh, so the Hargraves family is in the Umbrella Academy. So they've all got great names.
Yeah.
What about the, I'm trying to remember any of them.
Yeah, I can't think of any of their names.
They're like-
V. Something comes with V.
Yeah, Vanya.
Vanya.
But she's the white violin.
Yes.
You know, they've all got a nickname as well.
Uncle Vanya. It's a Chekhov play, but it sounds good. Uncle Vanya is a nickname.
All right, Emma, Uncle Vanya Hargraves.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah, I love a baffling nickname.
Yeah. It's a good conversation
It's like,
starter.
why do they call you Uncle Vanya? Well, funny story, actually.
Yeah.
Boring story, actually. Let me take you through it.
So it started with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So Anya, Uncle
Anya.
Vanya.
Anya Vanya.
I would like to thank a couple of people to bring us home now from Matraville in New South Wales, Blake Utamo.
Ooh, Blake Utamo. The shark. Blake Flake.
Yes.
Like
the shark. The shark.
Like the shark Utamo.
I mean, not the only thing. Probably shares with Great Norman. Or a wicked swing.
Long dong.
Huge dong.
Huge dong. Congrats, Blake.
Loves to get nude. I mean, why
Loves
wouldn't you?
Yeah. With a dog like that.
Jesus, Blake.
Not your value, Blake. Not your
Blake,
value.
it's really late here, and I'm so sorry.
Sorry,
Jess, is it his value?
sorry that was
No,
inappropriate.
of course not. I'm sorry that we said you had a big dong. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Not your value.
Unless you do, in which case, congrats. But if you don't, it doesn't matter.
It only matters if you do. Good on ya. But if you don't worry about it. But if you do, alrighty, buddy boy.
If you
not,
do.
no worries at all. Blake is also, that's a unisex name. Maybe you don't have a dong at all. And it's really, to be honest, none of our business
It's none of our
whether or not you
business.
have a dong.
Yeah.
And
how
either
big it
way,
is.
Yeah.
you've got a sick nickname, the Shark.
Yeah,
The
the shark
shark.
is also very gender neutral.
Blake Lively, I think, is the only.
Yeah.
Blake is generally I don't know many Blakes, to be honest. Great name.
Great name. Love
the
it.
name
I want to
Blake.
see more Blakes in the world. So
Blake.
get that big dong going.
That big,
We need
big
more
dong energy.
Blakes out there. Oh, God.
I'll move on swiftly. I would love to thank.
Not swift enough, Dave.
I would love to thank from Berlin in Deutschland or Germany. We would like to thank Shokri Francis Raouf.
Hey, Shokri. I feel like Shokri's been around with us for ages, but...
The jock.
Oh, the shock jock. Yeah, that's great.
The Shock.
The jock.
The Jock's a good. That's good.
The jock's
Yeah.
good.
The jock. The strap.
And what's
Strapper.
inside the Jock? Anyway, we're moving on. Shokri Francis Raouf.
Shokri, the jock.
Inside the jock is a large dong.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
I
move
know.
on from.
I know. I thought,
Shokri.
let's bring it back.
Appreciate you
Bring
a
it
lot.
back.
And your large dong.
Bring back the dong.
All these people have large dongs, can we just say? And finally, I'd love to thank from Deer Park here in Victoria, Tom Murray.
The dong.
Tom the Dong Murray.
Tom the Dong Murray actually works really well.
That's actually really good. Why do they call you the Dong? Funny story, actually. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Deer Park. It's also in Melbourne town. Somewhere, I think, out in the west.
So we're not that far away from the Dong.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Hey, you're never too far away from the Dong, as is its size.
It's that big.
It's never far away.
Well, do we have any members for the Triptych Club tonight?
Yes, we have a lot.
Oh, great.
So,
thank
Dave,
you.
are you warmed up? I mean, I'll quickly explain, I guess, the Triptych Club. Dave's only saying great because he's got to come up with gold for each of you. So if you have signed up and supported us on the shout-out level for 3 straight years, you get welcomed into the Triptych Club. I'm standing at the door. I got the clipboard. I got the guest list. I got the velvet rope ready to lift it for you as we tick you off. I'll say your name. Then Dave hypes you up. He's your hype man.
Hell yeah.
Everyone comes in the Triptych Club feeling good. And if you're not feeling good, Dave will make you feel good. Dave obviously needs to be kept up. And Jess does that with her hyping skills. Jess has also come up with you actually have quite a bit to do, Jess. An hors d'oeuvre and a drink.
Thank you for noticing. I actually do a lot of the heavy lifting at this fucking club.
I'm just standing with the guest list and I'm sort of schmoozing.
You didn't even
Yeah.
fucking
hanging
print
out.
that list yourself, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'll
on the iPad.
Come on.
It's not even hard. Anyway, yeah. Well, last week we had rations. This week,
Please tell me-
we're out of rations.
Oh, we went too hard on the ration.
We're too hard on the
We really
rations.
should have rationed
Yeah,
those.
bit of self-control, people. Fucking hell.
So there won't be anything.
But we've
this
got
week.
every other drink and
Oh yeah, no, fully stocked bar and fridge.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a kitchen with 6 dozen chefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really no problem.
And they all specialise in hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
And each week we put on a couple more because we got more guests.
Yeah.
Dave, you always book a band. Who have you got this week?
We have got Phil Collins featuring Steely Dan, both playing their My Number song at the same
Whoa.
time.
And it's
A My Number
honestly,
mashup.
It's honestly seamless.
But it's also like silent disco, so you can pick whichever My
Yeah,
Number song you
great.
want to listen to.
Perfect.
And we should also have Foles on another stage playing their My Number song.
Mm-hmm.
Great, we
Perfect.
should. But, I mean, you booked the lineup. Did you organise it? Why are you telling us what we should have?
Yeah. Is that what we do have, or is that what we should have had?
We do have. Yes, here they are now.
Wonderful.
Foles.
All right, Dave, there's
Phil's
literally...
Oh, there's so many.
Pretending I was
Dave.
Jules Holland
Oh my
there.
God, Dave, there's so many.
There are 14. Oh,
Fuck off.
I'll help.
Is that serious?
yeah.
Yeah, it's
All
a
right,
lot.
you ready?
No.
Dave-
Oh, I need a bit of water here.
Dave,
Gee.
they've all been waiting 3 years.
I know,
No
well-
fopping off.
3 years of my life has also been building to this moment.
Yeah. I reckon
can
you're
do
ready
this.
for this.
I
Oh,
also
man,
had
just
some
looking down the
water
list
ready
of
to go.
names, you got a lot of gold to work with here.
Oh, don't say that. The least natural hype man, Matt.
I know.
Trying
And
to
he
set me
ruins
up
the
here.
momentum.
Hey, let's switch roles one week, and I will...
Do you want to do it this
Let's
week?
do it
No,
this
on, I said 1 week, not this
It's
week.
14.
All right, you ready, Dave? You
I
warmed
need you,
up?
Jess.
You
Come
warmed
on,
up?
Dave.
Jess, I fucking need
You
you.
can do this.
All right, first
Easy.
up, from Forked River in New Jersey, it's Marcos Vasquez.
Well, there was a fork in the road and you chose the right side. Yeah.
We're off and rolling, baby.
From Luton in Great Britain, it's singly named Will.
Well, you've been looting all the bars of all the great people and you've brought your good self here to our club tonight.
Yes.
All right, so start, but we'll keep going.
Where there's a will, there's a
We don't
way.
need commentary, Matt. We just need momentum. Keep going,
I
please.
just want them
Matt,
to get the
Matt,
welcome they deserve.
Shut
okay.
the fuck up.
From Launceston in Cornwall, Great Britain, it's George Francis.
Crossed a gorge to get here tonight, but George Francis is here.
Okay, I don't understand, but
Gorge is almost...
It's just, yeah.
George, it's almost,
It's almost the
thing.
same word.
but I mean, how is that hyping him
Matt!
up to say
How
that
do
he's
you-
crossed a gorge?
Yeah, but it was a perilous journey, and he's made it. Jesus.
Jesus. From the Woodlands in Texas in the United States is Morgan Clark.
Well, we're out of the woodlands and into the club.
Good Morgan. From Robina
What?
in Queensland.
That doesn't even make sense. Where's this place from?
From Robina in Queensland. You know her well because she gave you some books that you've used for a book cheat.
Mm-hmm.
It is Tegan Longman.
Well, it's been a long night. But it's also going to be a great night. Woo! War of the Worlds. Shout out.
From Henderson in Nevada in the United States, it's Tiger Lapira.
Well, I thought I was more of a lion man, but tonight I'm a tiger man. Yes. What? Is their name really Tiger?
That's great name.
Yeah.
That's fucking badass.
I mean, it sounds like Tiger Lapira. It's great.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like. I really thought he was gonna do so. Like, there was no tiger, and all of a sudden a Tiger Lapira.
Oh, that's good. That's actually good.
To be fair, you have so much more time to think about
Also,
it.
for the people at home, I do not see them written down at all. I just hear the name and react to it. It probably would be better in hindsight if I had it written down in front of me. But anyway.
From London in Great Britain, it's Augie M.
Augie March?
It's Augie March.
Augie March right into our club tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Singleton in New South Wales, it's Jonathan Wheelhouse.
Well, you're not going to be single too much longer. Jonathan he's in our wheelhouse. Sometimes I just latch onto the place name because it gives me that extra one. It gives me 1 second extra.
You're just letting all these great names swing by and you're going off like...
Because if I leave it to the name, what happens is if I don't get one, I'm like, well, fuck, now I've got nothing. I've got 5 seconds of silence. Woo! Wheelhouse! Yeah!
We're on the home stretch here. From Garland in Texas, it's Josh Harmon.
Oh, we ain't in Kansas anymore, Judy Garland.
Yes,
Yeah!
I was hoping you'd do a Garland.
Thank you.
From Sacramento in California, it's Jacoby Austin D'Angelo.
Oh, Jacoby.
How have I gotten that wrong after so long?
They call him the Jacoby Bryant of this club.
Yes.
And D'Angelo, I always get it all wrong. I got mucked it all up.
No, I think that's right. Jacoby D'Angelo.
Do you want me to do it the other way around? Give you more time on the name. Liren Bromberg from Philadelphia in the United States.
Fun fact about Liren Bromberg. Every now and then, I get a word, a name, or a phrase just stuck in my head. And last year, there was a week where I'd seen Liren comment on something on Patreon in the Facebook group. And throughout the week, I just kept thinking, Liren Bromberg. Liren Bromberg. Liren Bromberg's here tonight.
If that doesn't hype you up, you're dead inside.
Yeah, God, me telling you that, hey.
You're in my head.
I think about you.
I thought about your name a lot for about a week in mid-2020 when everyone was losing their minds.
That's so nice.
And my thing was Liren Bromberg. Liren Bromberg. It's a great name. I love it.
Richard Lloyd from London, Great Britain.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was going to be more there.
Richard Lloyd.
Dickie Lloyd. What are we thinking?
From London. Yeah, I got...
Lloyd's Bank in London.
Oh, well, I
Take it to
felt
the bank.
rich. I thought I was a rich man, but then you came and now I feel even richer. Richard Lloyd's Bank. See, Matt? Set me up there.
Has switching it around made it harder?
I think it has somehow.
Okay, I'll go back to the original.
back.
How many more we got?
Two more.
Two more. From Tom's River, New Jersey, it's Kayla Hodkowitz. Kayla Hodkowitz.
Kayla, never failer.
Oh, that's... Hey, now we're hitting our stride.
Thank
Should we
you.
go back to the top?
Yeah. Start again. Here we
And
go.
finally, from High Wycombe in Western Australia, it is Chris Potts.
This night was going to be Low Wycombe, but now it's High Wycombe.
Yep.
What would you have done with pots? Anyone?
Some pots and pans. I'm going to make a real racket tonight. Get out the pots. No, it is hard, isn't it?
You know what?
For the listener at
Why
home.
do we start doing it?
Also, it is 12:15 after midnight.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
We're talking up to telling people, oh, it's so late. And they're like, 12:15? We're picturing like 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
All of a sudden, you sound like a real virgin, Brad.
Well, I did a 10-hour shift today. Got to get up in about 6 or 7 hours for another 10-hour shift. So let's keep
yeah, right. That's a fair call.
Liren Bromberg.
So that brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Dave, beat this baby home.
Hey, we've had some laughs. We've had some times. We've learnt about a dark period in history. But I honestly feel I know a lot more about World War One now. So thank you, Matt, for bringing that to our attention. But we will bring this chapter to a close next week. It'll be either myself or maybe Naomi, who knows, we'll be back with another episode. Probably not related to World War One.
Probably. No guarantees.
Well, unless Naomi accidentally picks one.
That would be amazing.
If it's me in charge, I promise it won't be. But if you want to get in contact with us, you can go to dogoonpod.com and find links to our Patreon, our merchandise, our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, which are all at dogoonpod. And you can also, of course, buy tickets to our live podcasts in March and April. 4 of those. We've got Primates on sale now that we just announced at the top of the show. Book Cheat, Matt's doing a stand-up show. All that stuff will be linked in the description of this episode. But until next week, I'll say thank you so much and goodbye!
Later!
Bye!
Before the first one, you did 3 breaths in without a breathe out. Did you notice that? You were like, because you're about to go, and then you had a thought and you breathed in again.
And then I passed out.